Welcome to Mr. Podcast with Claude.
And Justin.
We're back with our Leftovers podcast, talking about season 2, episode 3. And by that, I mean season 3, episode 3. Crazy Whitefella thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a good title that I think I could tell this was a Kevin's dad episode, or I should say a Kevin episode, Kevin Sr.
Yes.
That was pretty good.
Yeah. It's definitely a departure, if you will.
Uh-oh. No, I won't. I mean, that'd be a great thing to know. How many departure puns between all the Leftovers podcasts there are? How many times has people made that one? Sorry to depart.
It's way too easy. But yeah, very enjoyable episode, 100%. And this is something I'm really learning. I don't know why it's taking me so long to learn this about this show, but this is not a show that delivers the thing I'm expecting, usually.
Mm-hmm.
You know, maybe I can guess a plot point here or there, but like in terms of the overall storyline, it's never going where I'm expecting.
Mm-hmm.
So going into this episode, I mean, I didn't even know, I had no idea what it was going to focus on, but if I knew that it was going to be, a Kevin's dad, i.e. Kevin Sr. centric episode, this is not what I would have guessed would happen in an episode like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it links up with the earlier thing we saw, so there's like an answer question there, like maybe I could have guessed that. But in terms of what they were going to say about what he's been doing and, how he ended up there and what that woman was doing and all that stuff, is stuff that I was not expecting at all.
Yeah, it's interesting you say it kind of taught you that about the show, because it kind of taught me too, this episode in particular, about their storytelling, that hey, if we want to just cut to Australia, we're just going to cut to Australia. Like, that's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Where I feel like on other shows that you would not expect that. You'd expect like a ramp up to that, So like when Kevin and Nora are going to Australia, I expect to see scenes like getting in a taxi or driving to the airport or being on the plane or the whole montage of traveling, of actually getting there. Yeah. And so when we get to Australia, the audience isn't jarred by this crazy change in location, like the first time we've seen this location.
Right.
But yeah, with this episode, it's like, nope, if we want to be in Australia now, we'll just be in Australia. And so that does really kind of tell you something about how if you're trying to figure out what might happen, like, you have to even widen your the possibilities even more, because they're not constrained by certain conventions, other shows are.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And I guess, more generally, like, this answer that we got about this woman who killed this other Kevin police chief,
Mm-hmm.
It was really, it's this kind of thing where it's like, why haven't I learned this by now? Because it's such a lost thing.
So lost. It's all lost. God damn it. The show is it's lost part too. I mean, literally, like, if you were homesick about Lost ending, The Leftovers is the meal you should watch. Did I ruin that metaphor enough?
Wow, that was, but if there's one thing I learned from Lost, it's that no matter who the character, if they're doing something, seemingly mysterious and mystical, usually what it has behind it is some kind of personal quest, tragedy, some kind of family drama or tragedy. Like, there's if you peel away that stuff, like, the reason why people are doing those things always goes back to something that happened to them earlier.
Yeah. Yeah, and it makes sense. It's obvious, right? I mean, people's actions are determined by their beliefs, and your beliefs are determined by your experiences. So whatever you're doing is being based on the experience you had, right? So that's like obvious in a way. And then if you're doing something seemingly crazy or whatever, then you'll need an equally sort of big reason to be doing that. So something big and emotional happened to you, and this is what's driving the character on a story level. The audience needs that. The audience wants characters to be doing things that are meaningful to the character, so that, you know what I mean. So it's like it all is just like so obvious. Yet you're exactly right that when the reveal happens, you go, oh yeah, it's just this thing that
Yeah.
that is just another version of the thing we've seen before a million times. And again, it goes back to what we've talked about in the Lost Lowdown.
It's like, why didn't I think
Where
it was that? I mean, I
yeah, and it goes back to the thing we talked about on the Lost Lowdown, which is the power of like chronology and scene order, right?
yeah.
And how when you get the end of the last episode, when we see them drowning the other Kevin, um, and then Kevin Sr. comes out, the inferences you make are completely different than when we go in chronological order.
Yeah.
And and we see how she met him. You realize he doesn't know all those women.
Yeah.
You realize, like, because the inference that I made when I saw that scene is like, oh, he's hanging out with them. He knows
Right.
them. He's staying with them. And they bait you in by, well, when he's like, hey, what are you girls up to, or whatever he says,
Yeah.
like he's very familiar with them. He's not, who are you people? Where
Right.
am I? That's what he really should be saying, right? Is
Yeah.
like, but yeah, so it's interesting, like, kind of just seeing, kind of learning that lesson again with that.
Yeah, I had assumed that he didn't know them and that they just randomly were, drowning this guy outside the place where Kevin Senior was staying, which was wrong. I mean, he is connected to one of them. He doesn't really. I mean, I guess he's seen like the pictures and stuff, but he doesn't really
Yeah.
know her personally at that point. And the other ones, he doesn't know them at all.
Mm-hmm.
So it was sort of that and sort of not that. Um,
Yeah. I thought the sort of big storyline of Kevin Senior goes to Australia. He's trying to find his purpose. He's listening to the voices, like he said, like that whole line again. I was like, oh my god, of course. Why
yeah,
wouldn't you think he would do? He said that. He said he's going to listen to the voices. So if he goes and moves to Australia, it's because the voices told him to.
right.
But that whole thing, I thought, and then it goes badly for him, and then maybe he gets hurt, or maybe he gets lost in the outback, and then he winds up, where these women are. Like, that seems like you could guess that, and
Yeah,
somehow it just doesn't really line up that way. And that's what I really want to do, is like figure out the pattern before the season ends, or not
yeah,
necessarily the pattern, or should say, like, gather enough clues in order to like make good forecast. And see how close you get.
yeah, yeah. And so I guess like in thinking about like the end of the show and where it's all going and stuff like that. This episode really made me think that, whatever actually happens or seems to happen, or however like concrete they want to get about what happens at the end of the season. Um, it seems clear to me that a big part of it is just going to be about like what it means for the characters.
Mm-hmm.
That's like clearly a major focus. And it won't necessarily be about saving the world or some, you know, figuring out what really happened with the departure, or,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
like some larger, more plot oriented thing. Like that, I my takeaway from that is that the show is more interested in these smaller dramas and stuff like that, and Kevin's story. I mean, this episode makes me reconsider it completely.
Reconsider which
The
Kevin story.
Junior, uh, the whole book thing, the whole he's
well, when he throws the book away, you go, oh, okay, oh, yeah, it's so interesting, and I think that's really kind of the fun of the show is when they do subvert your expectations, and you're just like, wow, you had that reaction, I didn't expect that.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's like, but then like when I thought about it, I'm like, I should have though, because that's such a
Mm-hmm.
consistent thing for for a Damon Lindelof show.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, he loves stuff like that, where he just takes a
Mm-hmm.
look at the thing and it's like, yeah, this is worthless.
It's the best, it's something great about that. I was rewatching season 1 episode 7, Cairo.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Um,
Cairo, please. Yes.
yeah, it's not Cairo.
No.
There's just and they do this a lot on the show, but it's a great screenwriting thing where it's these little reveals. So like when Jill goes and breaks into Nora's house, and she goes and finds the gun in the trouble board game box. She's really upset, and so the end of that scene is you just cut off of her seeing the gun, But then later, when Nora comes home and she sees like things are weird, she goes up there, and then they reveal that Jill left the gun out on the bed, and it's just these great little bits of like, what? Oh my god! Like because you didn't think, you assume, oh, she put the gun back in the
Right.
thing. Because you want to hide the evidence that you broke into this person's house,
Right.
but it's actually the opposite. She wants her to know that she found
Yeah.
out her secret, and she wants to like. And that's another thing we can talk about later is just how a lot of the characters have their response to this like existential crisis from the sudden departure is to like be assholes to other people,
Yeah.
like they just kind of lash out, I guess lash outwardly at others, and the guilty remnants are the big, sort of example of that, where their whole fucking game plan is to like be assholes to other people, like
Right.
to like make them uncomfortable, like that's their point.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the show is so good. Damon, I give him all the credit. He's got writers, but whatever. I give him all the credit. It's easy. He's the cat team effort. Yeah, but I'll just give him all the credit.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I mean, that's the thing. I'm sure there's a lot of moments in the show that are due to the other writers, but I mean, he's clearly the driving force behind certain themes that crop up routinely, and his name is on, I don't know, 80% at least of the scripts.
mhm.
So, I mean, I feel like it's fair to give him quite a lot of credit for the show.
Yeah, I'll give him 80% of the credit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love those really surprising things, and it happens all the time. Like it's just like another thing was in terms of like forecasting the plot, like rewatching the kind of beats of the whole Guilty Remnant scheme for season 1, where they're gonna like recreate the people that the people who departed, from the town, with the body double, with the dolls, and their clothes and stuff, and that, so you see them break into the houses, you see them take the pictures, and you're like, why are they doing that? And you go,
Yeah.
oh, they're doing it because they don't want, they're trying to steal their memory of the loved one. Okay,
Right.
well, we'll put that to bed. And like a couple episodes later, you see the next beat, they get the clothes, and then like
Yeah.
then they get so you see all the building blocks, and there's multiple shots of like in the church with the clothes all laid out, and it seems like obvious what they're gonna do once you know what they're gonna do.
Right. Yeah,
um
totally, totally.
but it's like
That's what I thought too.
up until the last minute, you're just like, oh my god, what's gonna happen? Like I can't see where this is going. It's such a interesting phenomenon.
Yeah, yeah. That reminds me. So did you get to the shirt thing?
I got to the shirt thing. I can't believe I forgot about where the white shirts went. And then I thought in the moment, I'm like, why did I forget this? This is an interesting, cool, big scene. And I was like, oh, because I basically probably told myself, oh, this is just proof that Kevin was having these feud states and having this alternate life. This is just kind of proof of that. And I just like forgot about it after that.
Right. So I agree that that's basically what it means, but I honestly don't understand. This is what I was asking, like if you could help. Like I don't understand specifically why was he taking his shirts out there and like, hey, I just don't
I think he was coming out to the woods every time he went into a fugue state, and I think he took his shirt off. I think it was like it uh it made sense to me. Now I'm trying to articulate it. Like he was just taking his shirt off, like the other Kevin wanted to be shirtless or something, and so he would just hang his shirt up like. I was like gonna say something. I don't even know if I believe that. Wow, it made sense to me. Let me think. He's out there because he sees like other evidence that somebody's been out there a lot, like the fire or whatever pit.
right.
Um,
Right.
and he sees the shirts. Yeah, I don't know. I was like, yeah, he would be in his work shirt, I guess after work or something,
Yeah.
and he'd go into a fugue state, and then he'd go out to the woods, and he'd take his shirt off, and then he would like do other Kevin stuff.
Right.
But that would suggest that he would come home shirtless and wake up
Right.
shirtless, and maybe that's what it
Right.
is. Maybe he would wake up shirtless and just go, "Oh, I was just sleeping," because he sleeps shirtless.
Just
I
assume he went to
think.
bed. Yeah.
Maybe that's what it is. God, it made sense when I watched it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I think that's what it is. It's just like I just find the whole like he takes his shirt off thing kind of weird. Like I don't. I mean, I know like Few Kevin is kind of crazy,
And I
but
think it's like, I mean, I would think he wouldn't want to wear, Officer Kevin Garvey's shirt when he's the other guy.
right,
So that makes
right,
sense.
yeah,
Um, yeah, interesting. But yeah, I thought it was a great reveal, to a question no one was asking, or a
yeah,
question people forgot that they didn't even care about. Where are
yeah,
my shirts? Oh, the dry cleaners. Okay, and that's the thing. Like, it's interesting to see how they kind of litter the beats of these little small stories across multiple episodes, and it's like just enough for you to forget, just enough for you to prevent you from like piecing them together that way.
right,
So like the guilty remnant thing, you don't necessarily know that these are a series of actions every time you see, like these things are connecting to each other for a
right,
bigger thing. You think, oh, they just stole pictures this time, and oh, they just did this thing
right,
this time,
right,
and so the way, since they space those beats out, that helps like the audience like not be able to like piece it together and go, oh, they're telling this story. It's like the J story or the K, it's not the A or B story, but it's like very, very, deep down in terms of their whole season stories.
right, right, yeah.
So you want to get into the episode?
Sure. Yeah, you ready to do that?
Yeah.
Talk about the
So
specifics here.
we're gonna not exactly go scene by scene, but we're gonna go kind of story beat by beat through this episode, because I've only seen it once at this point.
Yeah, me too.
So this will help us jog our memory and get some detailed commentary going.
Yeah. Okay, so we start off with the Richard Cheese version of "Personal Jesus" as the theme song. I guess that means this season we're just going to get a different theme song every week.
We are. I've heard that. Yeah.
That's my interpretation of that, because it's kind of random. I mean, I guess it's vaguely connected to the show, but um, it would be weird to have like random songs 2 weeks and then go back to "Let the Mystery Be."
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah, I
know,
think Weeds did that for, I think, was it every season or only one season? But I remember. But they had a different version of their theme song.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So they change the visual stuff is all the same. I guess they like that title sequence. They just want to change the music up. Okay, so right, so we pick it up. We cut to Australia, as you mentioned.
What?
And yeah, Kevin Senior's there. He's recording this like Aboriginal tribe doing some kind of dance song thing. And then he goes down there, repeats it, and I guess then the police arrive, and I guess what he was doing was illegal, and so they arrest him, but then release him, and let's see. Right, then he gets the Matt book, the Book of Kevin, I guess, from the post office.
Mm-hmm.
And he, I guess he reads it. He telephones Matt to talk about it, and his reaction to the book is to say that I guess it's not good because he's not in it. It's all about Kevin Jr. and it's not his story, it's mine. I'm the main character.
Which begs the question, did he think that when Matt said, "Hey, I've written the Book of Kevin," that did he assume it was about him?
I think he did.
Okay, so that's the implication.
I think he did, and that's why he was pissed that he's like barely even in it.
Yeah, I just didn't know if he assumed that before he read it, or he read it and was like, if you're gonna write a book, I should be in this. Versus, like, you told me, or you made me, or you implied that I was in this, versus I read it and I realized I'm not in it. Sort of
right.
Small distinction.
I think it could go either way with that. Yeah. But at the very least, after he reads it, he's pretty sure
while
that
he's reading it,
it's a piece of crap. Yeah, well, he's like marking it up like he's grading papers or something.
Yeah, when he takes out the red pen, I'm like, oh, really? Okay. And again, it's like not how you think the Book of Kevin is going to go when it's introduced.
No.
You don't think it's something you can figuratively and literally throw away.
Right.
And it kind of be done with it. I mean, at this point, Matt's like, that's the only copy. Or no, he gave the other copy to Kevin, if I remember correctly. And Matt, and he gave him a copy. I guess he gave Kevin Sr. the copy, and Kevin has the original.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think that's what it is.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's not how I thought that whole thing was gonna go.
Yeah, so after talking to him about it, and I guess Matt really is fine with the book how it is. He throws it away, and
yeah, he wasn't really seeking notes.
Yeah. Yeah, so he throws it away, though he does take one page from it and put it in the infamous National Geographic issue from season 1 that I'm sure you all remember. Whatever that meant, it's a weird thing, that National Geographic thing.
I think I feel like it's gonna it's gonna mean something. I think I'm trying to learn the lesson, like we were talking just a bit ago, about these story beats that are just like sprinkled very far out,
Right.
So this is another beat about this thing, so I'm expecting a payoff or some other conclusion about the significance of it,
right,
before the show's over.
So he throws away the book and goes off to resume his quest to get these songs. And this is where I assumed that that's how the book came to be found in Australia. Like someone's gonna find it in the trash.
I said the same thing. Yep. I was like, it's gonna find in trash. Okay, someone's gonna say, "Hey, what's this?
Yeah,
that's interesting."
Yeah, exactly. And then like word would spread, and that explains that scene. And it's like, no,
Mm-mm.
no, that's not it.
Yeah.
Of course not.
Because, and you know why that's better? I mean, it's better for a lot of reasons. It's better that someone only finds the one page. You know why? Because now they have limited information upon which to
Right.
base their actions. Because
Yeah.
if they had the whole book, it would have more information, and they would know it's not the Kevin down the street. You
Yes,
know,
exactly.
because it would have talked about Miracle. It would have talked about the town. You know, it would have talked about where Kevin is from.
Right.
You know, it would have had all the details. You know, and I think, and that's the other thing too, in terms of like trying to figure out how the story's going to go. Is those are the things you don't think of, right? You go, oh well, someone has she talked about the book of Kevin, so she found the whole book, and it's, you don't think, well,
Right.
maybe she only found a single page.
Right. Right.
You know, that would be ridiculous to think that.
Right.
Well,
Well.
why did she only find a single page? Oh, because I don't know. Kevin Senior took out a single page. Why would he take out a single page? I don't know. Maybe that was like the best page. You know, it's like, yeah, it just wouldn't work that way.
Right. Right. Uh. Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, let's talk about this section here. Are you done with the that
Yeah,
part of
yeah,
the
we kind of transitioned from there. So yeah, that's the first bit there.
So one thing I think you missed was just the very first scene. Is Kevin Senior, I believe, right after the sudden departure. So right before we cut to
Oh yeah, yeah,
Australia,
yeah. That
there's that
opening
little
thing
opening,
when
which
he
is which.
first hears the voices, or when he's about to hear the
Yeah,
voices, or something.
exactly. Exactly, yeah. Which is really cool, which is really interesting. I forgot that detail that he only started hearing the voices recently, and that it was, 5 minutes after the sudden departure. Because I just thought it was more of the old trope of like Kevin's dad's been crazy for 20 years, and
Me too.
it
Yeah.
runs in the family, and that's why Kevin's gonna probably, that's why he's worried about it, because
Right.
everybody knows but his dad like just recently went crazy when also the rest of the world went crazy. you
Yeah,
know
yeah, yeah. That was something I was surprised is actually like in season one.
mhm
Towards the end, they give you a flashback that's right before the departure, and you see that he was totally normal
mhm
at that point, and it was shocking to me because I didn't realize that it actually started after the departure, even though it's in the show.
Yeah, and I think that's why it came. It kind of took me by surprise when Kevin Senior was chiding Matt, saying the book should be about me, because I didn't think Kevin Senior thought of himself as a person with this huge destiny or a big plan. And that's because I forgot this all happened after the sudden departure. So
Right.
he's placing this meaning on it. It's not that,
Yeah.
like I said, it's not that he's been mentally ill for 20 years and he's just got a mental illness he's dealing with like millions of people do. It's something miraculous happened, and then this thing happened to me. And what does that mean? And I forgot that was part of the core of his character, and so therefore, like, it makes sense that he's on this quest in Australia, not to have fun. He's like trying to figure this whole thing out.
Right.
And so yeah, I was like, oh, he's got a whole mission here I didn't even know about.
Yeah, yeah, and I mean that was the thing that he said in season two, which is that he feels better now because he started listening to the voices, and
Mm-hmm.
they're the ones that told him to go to Australia, and so there's this weird idea that like the voices were hounding him,
Mm-hmm.
until he would do what they said, and it's like it's one of those things where. I mean, it's a fine line between, being crazy and,
Mm-hmm.
wanting to believe that there's actually some external force there that's trying to get him to do stuff. But at the very least, it shows why he could believe that he's on some kind of special mission.
Yeah, exactly. And that idea you just said kind of touches a bit on Westworld, the sort of origins of consciousness there, and the voices in your head, and what does that kind of
Oh,
mean?
oh God, right.
Uh, bicameral mind and all that. Uh,
Right, right. Because
God, I
sometimes
swear.
the voices in your head are Arnold,
Yeah,
and
I was just gonna
sometimes
say.
they're
I was just gonna
you.
say if Kevin Jr. asked his dad the name of the voice in his head, and he's like, "It's Arnold," I'm out of here. I'm out of here. He's like, Arnold told me to come to Australia, and he told me to build a great big theme park full of robots.
Oh God.
um. So the voices in the head thing. I wanted to connect that to Lost in terms of the whispers. A very similar idea, I think. Well, especially if you consider the question, is the voices Kevin's hearing voices of the departed, of the dead people, or is it, what, I don't know, something else. So anyway, I thought that was kind of interesting connection.
Right, right.
Um,
It's a good question. I guess like that would be something to ask that I don't think he's clarified. Like, does he know, or did he know any of the people that were speaking to him?
yeah.
Um, because obviously, like as far as Kevin goes, I mean, he definitely knew Patty.
Hmm.
Before she showed up, but she was not departed.
She wasn't
So
departed,
she
honey.
wasn't departed. Not like those girls. They departed right in front
Oh,
of my
Kevin. Oh,
eyes.
Kevin, I didn't depart.
I saw it all happen.
By the way, your cell phone's over there. She's Blanche DuBois. Um, she's not really. And something else I was gonna say. Let me think. Oh yeah. So this whole thing, again, connecting the Lost, this whole Australia thing, it was like Kevin's walkabout.
100%, yeah.
I swear when he goes to, it was one of those shops he went to, or it was an interior somewhere in Australia that I was like, I swear, if Locke rolls by in a wheelchair, it reminded me of that tourist company
Yeah,
that Locke is in, when
right.
that little scene. It reminded me of
The
that, and I was like,
walkabout tours,
the
yeah.
walkabout tours, exactly.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
uh, so yeah, I thought that was
You
interesting.
can't do this. Don't tell me what I can't
Don't
do.
tell me what I can't do. Oh, jeez.
You don't know who you're dealing with. I have a destiny.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
You
man,
know,
we're still there. We're totally still there.
not to go on a detour of Lost, but I just thought how interesting it would have been if you combine the disappearance of 815 with the sudden departure. Like
Yeah, yeah.
if that would have been kind of interesting if everyone's like, oh, they just disappeared.
I guess the
They
plane
depart
departed.
the plane went down the ocean, but yeah,
Yeah, I
the
guess
plane
that
departed.
that would be the more reasonable assumption.
But it's like, no, they actually, went to this crazy island instead.
Right.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. That would have fit in a weird
Hmm.
way. Definitely.
But yeah, I really love this whole first part with him in Australia trying to figure out the rain. What do they call him? Rain song? Not rain song, but um, prayer song, dance song. I forgot.
I don't remember a name, and I don't have
Yeah,
one in front of me. But yeah, something along those lines.
something along those lines. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. I thought the details about the Aboriginal laws and
Mm-hmm.
sort of the cultural um, systems there in place, I thought were really, really interesting. Like, people having special, having to have special contact with certain Aboriginal leaders, and
Right.
you can't, it's private information. That I thought that was all super interesting,
Yeah.
just as like background to the story.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. It's something. I mean, I guess I just don't see that many stories set in Australia, but it's something I don't really know much about. So, um, yeah, it was interesting to see, and it's not where I thought his story was going to go.
Mm-hmm.
As far as like, and we find out later the reason why he's doing this. It doesn't help. It really doesn't help at all.
No, and I want to talk about that when we get to that scene because there's times when characters explain their motivations and like I'm with them, and then they connect it to why they're doing what they're doing and they lose me.
Yeah, yeah,
Because I'm like,
yeah,
well, if you thought that, why are you doing this?
yeah.
Like it's like it makes sense from either angle, but not actually connected. And then I'm like, now I'm just confused. Yeah, you just explained yourself.
Right.
What else? We see Matt's son.
Oh yeah.
I felt like that was a thing. Did we see him before? I don't know.
Yeah. So I think
Uh,
I think we saw him in the first episode.
okay.
Like briefly. I think he has him and Mary stand up in the church when he's giving his speech
Mm-hmm.
about
That's right. That's right.
how special Miracle is, or Jardin, or Miracle Jardin, or whatever you want to
Miracle,
call
please.
it. But it is interesting in that this is also a very Lost thing. Like, it's technically a flashback because in the present,
Mm-hmm.
Mary has left, um, and
That's why I was really confused. I'm like, I thought Mary
yeah,
left, and then I was like, did Matt convince her to stay, and we didn't see that scene? Okay.
yeah. I think it becomes clear in the second call. I think it's the second call,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it was this one. I'm not sure. In one of the calls, it's clear that Kevin Jr. doesn't know about the book yet,
Mm-hmm. Yes.
and
Yeah.
and so then you know that it must take place before that confrontation in the
Mm-hmm.
first episode, um, and so they're kind of catching up, I guess,
Yeah.
with this side of the story, but
Yeah, and the show doesn't care if you know the timeline. They're like, we're not
no.
gonna have a title that says like 2 months
Right,
ago or
3 days
whatever.
earlier, 2 weeks earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. They count on you to, I guess, figure that out.
Yeah.
Um, it's um, it is crazy to. I mean, we get to see Matt here, briefly in a couple scenes, but it is kind of crazy that there's really no main characters in this episode. I mean, this is almost like Across the Sea or something, where they just
Yeah.
completely. I mean, Kevin Senior's been in the show before, but he's certainly never
Mm-hmm.
had this kind of focus.
I think this is the kind of thing you get when it's the last season.
Yeah,
But also
like the
Damon.
Richard Alpert episode or something.
Yeah, like Damon Lindelof has talked about how they transitioned from doing episodes that were a lot of characters to like episodes where it was like one character's main perspective,
Right.
and we saw that we see that more and more, and
Which is
it's
more of
interesting.
a
It plays,
Lost thing.
yeah, and the whole pace of this show. What I realized watching this episode is it has the pace of a movie. All the like every episode feels like a movie. It
Mm-hmm.
feels like an hour chunk of like a long movie. Um, and I think that gives it an interesting quality. Versus Lost wasn't like that. Lost as the base of a TV show. Obviously, it was an action show, so that contributed to that. But I think the Leftovers takes its time with its storytelling, like a
Yeah.
movie does. But it's just telling a
Yeah.
much longer story.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Um, what else? I thought the scene. So when Kevin Senior goes to the lady who has the address for Christopher Sunday, I thought this was a really interesting scene
Oh, I didn't
because.
get to that yet.
Oh, you didn't get to that yet? Then I'll wait till you get to it.
Sorry. That's sort of in the next segment. So yeah, I can. I can briefly go over that. So yeah, so after throwing away the book, he resumes, I guess, his mission to learn all these songs, and so he has to find this like one final tribal leader who's the only one alive who knows this like last song that he has to learn to save the world somehow.
Oh yeah, sorry. Yeah. Oh, save the world. Keyword. We gotta talk about that.
I know. Of course we do. Yeah. So yeah. So he goes to this this like liaison, I guess, sort of official, to try to find where this guy is, and she sees a wanted poster for him on the wall, and so he just kind of runs out the door with the information, and he goes to this guy's house, and he goes in, and he basically tells like the story of what happened before all this, more or less. So the voices told him to come to Australia, but they didn't tell him where or what to do. Of course. So he went there, and I guess he met some, I don't know, some hippie who gave him some drugs, and he went into a hotel.
Well, the hippie asked him, "Do you want to talk to God?" And he said, "Hell yeah, I want to talk to God."
Exactly.
Which I think is an appropriate response to that question.
Yeah. Fair enough. So he goes to this hotel room and like does this drug and hallucinates and doesn't remember anything.
Wah wah.
Yeah, we were all.
I love that. Oh man,
it's so inevitable. But then the fake out comes, and so I woke up and the TV on the. You do know what was on the TV?
There it is. Here it comes, guys. Everyone leans closer to their TV, edge of their seats.
Yep. I was like, holy shit. He's gonna say it. He's gonna say it. It was a story about a chicken who helps you find what you're looking for. What? It was a what?
That helps a chicken that helps people find what they're looking for.
It was a what?
And what's great is in that moment that they've not given you the answer you wanted. They have immediately hooked you into this other thing about this chicken now, right?
Right.
Because he's actually, it's not what it's like. Do you know what was on the TV? Like the news. Like, okay, we're done. It's like, no, I've got this story about this other equally interesting, in the audience's mind, potentially interesting as Kevin on the TV,
Right.
And so you go down that rabbit hole, and it's just a completely different thing. But But yeah, I was going back and forth. I was like, they're not going to confirm that was him, that Kevin was really in the hotel. And then like the scene keeps going, and then he starts talking about the God song, and I'm like, oh, maybe they will confirm that. And then he's like, I don't remember anything. I'm like, yeah, oh God, see, they tricked me again. Okay, I knew it. They weren't going to confirm. And then, like you said, then the last switcheroo comes, and they're like, and then the TV, and I'm like, what? And so I started out going, they're not going to confirm it. It makes so much sense for them not to confirm it. And then they hook me anyway, and I go on the roller coaster ride just to wind up back to where I was.
Right. You were right in the first place. It's yeah. And that's what I had assumed too. And yet I still also was on the roller coaster, like, because it seemed like the details are all matching up. The drugs, the way he was describing the scene, the fire, the hotel room. Like, it was like, oh shit. And as soon as he hits TV, it's like, because at first you're worried that he just forgot everything, which, turns out to be the truth. Yeah. But when he hits the TV thing, it's like, oh my God, it has to be. What else could be on the TV?
Yeah, he might have remembered the most important thing.
Yeah, which it's like, that would be fine. But yeah, I mean, I should have known. And it's really what I had assumed, but I guess the scene tricked me anyway, that there's just no way they're going to like provide objective confirmation.
Well, then it begs the question, what happened with Kevin? What did he see and why? And why does it have those particular details in it?
Yeah, so I definitely want to come back to that. Let me just finish this little bit here.
All right.
So he goes to see the chicken who tells you your purpose. And the chicken jumps on him and starts pecking at this tape recording he has of Kevin Jr. And he's asking he's asking his dad to sing Itsy Bitsy Spider to make the rain stop, and I guess it worked in the tape. And so here's a very logical leap.
Yep,
So,
this is where we go.
So based on that, he decides that on the 7th anniversary of the sudden departure, there's going to be a great flood. It's already a fucking mess, but okay.
It's already bad.
But there's one way I can make it stop, which is I have to learn all of the songs of the Aboriginal tribes on Australia's songline and sing them. And then that will somehow stop the rain from coming. And then I love this. The guy, this like tribal leader guy, like it's like the song's to bring rain, not stop rain.
It's the best.
It's like, of course it is. Of course it is.
Yeah, because what Aboriginal or Native group really
would want the rain to stop? Want
the rain to stop?
Yeah.
What place rains too much?
It would have to be like an extremely rainy area, and that's clearly not the case. So it wouldn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And it's just like, well, that's open to interpretation. So it's like, okay, fine. So,
which I thought was a weird line, because why wouldn't you take his word for it?
Right.
Oh, that part's open to interpretation. Okay, I see.
Yeah. It's like, I feel like there's just not a lot of room for interpretation there. It's, it's like, I mean, it's weird to say, like, well, my interpretation of bringing the rain is stopping the rain.
Yeah, and I guess it sort of begs the question: what was he singing the other songs about? I mean, presumably those other songs were not about stopping the rain, and he just didn't know what they were actually about because nobody told him.
I would assume.
So
he
was just copying recordings. He's been singing "Bring the Rain" this whole time.
Yeah.
So if it does flood, then he's responsible for the flood.
That would be hilarious. And so this show to do that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's weird that in the moment they didn't call that out, that that presumably he's been singing "Bring the Rain" in all these different spots. So that's really, I hope they bring that up. It seems like a really small detail they could ignore unless it's important later on, like you're saying, like it'll actually really rain a lot and he'll think back to a mistake he made, and then he'll think he caused it or something. And maybe in that moment, so maybe that's it. Maybe he'll find the final song he needs, and he thinks he has stopped the rain from coming, and then it starts raining, proving him wrong.
Right.
But then maybe he'll go, well, but I was singing these songs on the song line. Oh, but I was singing "Bring the Rain." So look, I am magical. Like maybe it'll be like that.
Maybe it's supposed to rain a lot.
Yeah, so can we talk about this logical leap? I mean,
first of all,
he starts with an assumption. He starts with that like on the 7th, like nothing's happened the other anniversaries.
Right. Yeah. It's like, because that's the one we're on this season. Like, the fuck did you get that from?
Why is 7 the one that something crazy is going to happen? It's a prime number, but
there's nothing in the Itsy Bitsy Spider that would. I mean, yeah, the 2, 3, 5. I mean, there's plenty of other prime numbers. I mean, what's, Matt tried to say 07, it's very special or something, but it's all like kind of, I mean, it's as special as you make it. Basically.
7. It's as special as you make it. I never thought a number could have a tagline, but it has one now.
I mean, yeah, it's just a number. But yeah, I mean, that's already a huge leap. And then here's how I stop it. Even though it was the itsy bitsy spider, now it's this. I guess maybe the missing piece is they told me I was supposed to go to Australia, so.
But
So
why doesn't he think he should sing the Itsy Bitsy Spider in Australia?
well, yeah, I agree. The Itsy Bitsy Spider is not the American equivalent of these like tribal
And
ritualistic things.
any intimation otherwise is offensive.
Indeed.
How dare you, sir?
Yeah, well,
Or
yeah.
madam. Yeah, so it was, again, like I was saying, it's very strange when he has this great exposition about his whole motivation, but then he connects it to this weird idea of what his purpose is and what he has to do, and there wasn't a flood
Yeah.
before, dude. Like, why did he say I have to sing the songs or otherwise there will be another departure?
Yeah,
Like,
that would make more sense.
why isn't that it? I don't understand why it's more complicated
Because
than
on the
that.
tape it was about rain, I guess.
On the tape it was about rain. Yeah, but in the song he makes something go away, and that's what a departure is. I mean, I feel like that's a almost as good of a connection,
Mm-hmm.
So with the
Yeah.
lyrics in the song too, why isn't it as well, I don't know. I guess it is about making the sun come out. But yeah, I don't know. I think that's just really weird. And okay, so are we through all the different logical beats? So the first one is something's gonna happen on the 7th anniversary. That's a assumption.
That's just a random. That
And
doesn't seem to have
then
anything to do with anything.
the next random assumption is there's gonna be a flood that day.
Right.
And then the third one is that now this isn't necessarily an assumption, but a connection he made that he stopped the rain.
Right.
Which I'm curious, did he ever test that hypothesis? Every time it rained ever since the 30 years since, did he try to sing the song and see if he was supernatural? Like, that would have been interesting to know.
Yeah. I mean, I guess I'm
Uh,
assuming that he didn't think much of it until the chicken of destiny pointed it out to him.
okay, that's fair. That's fair. Uh, Chicken of Destiny. Cluck for your future, right here, folks. Um, so then that, and then what's the next be? And then so okay, then he can, and so then so the next one is that puts two and two together. That means that he's got to stop this flood from happening. But the
Right.
question is why. So that's the other implicit assumption, is that it needs to be stopped.
Right.
Which I don't understand why he thinks it needs to be stopped.
Right.
And how does he? Why does he think it's a flop? This show is confounding me as much as Lost ever did, I swear.
Yeah.
And it's on these like Lost, sometimes it was on the crazy mystical stuff, and this is just on like basic character stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. It's weird, but I mean, Lost had stuff like this too. I mean, I think this is a thing that happens in TV shows sometimes. Like characters just like make these jumps that, and I guess the weird thing about this is, I mean, I don't know where the storyline's going, but by the end, it kind of seems like, this storyline is over, and so like to a certain extent, it doesn't really matter that much. It's kind of just a vehicle to explain his story, to like get him to this point, to
exactly,
get
just
him
to
to the
prime
next
him.
point.
Yeah, to prime him for when Kevin's gonna obviously show up, and then they'll go from there and team up for whatever. I realized that particularly with this episode is that Kevin Senior is Locke from Lost.
Yeah.
They're both characters who after a crazy event happened, they had something miraculous happen to
Oh
them. So
God, you're right.
Locke could walk, and Kevin's hearing voices. They both feel like they have to do certain things in order to save the world.
You're right.
They both think they're on a path, and they have to follow the signs.
Oh God.
Now Kevin, from what we've seen, is well, more recently, I guess, more self-assured. I guess before that point, he was kind of floundering like Locke does all the time in terms of his faith in what he's supposed to be doing.
Right.
But yeah, I totally see that they're like the same character thematically.
Yeah. That made me realize that also the Mary storyline is sort of Locke-esque. I mean, just that whole coming out of some medical condition miraculously, and like it's being connected to um, you know possibly like the supernatural qualities of a place.
Yeah.
Like that whole
Or like with
assumption.
like with Rose too, her cancer.
Yeah,
That whole
exactly.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it seems like he's got his things he goes back
Got his
to,
things.
which it's definitely a similar thing here. I mean, even Hurley was hearing voices and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So there's a lot of there's definitely a lot of overlap.
Yeah.
So yeah, speaking of Lost, not really, but I wanted to go back to the hotel.
Please, let's check in.
So because like you sort of hinted at this, and I feel like this is worth saying, even though like I can't get to a definitive conclusion. So he does not confirm that he saw Kevin and the TV at the hotel, and like he doesn't remember telling him go to the well and take her to the well, and all that weird stuff he says. However, I think what's hard to deny is that Kevin saw that stuff. He saw his dad in that room with the paint on, having taken a drug. There's a fire there. I believe he even mentions it's in Perth, and he's looking into a TV, and I don't think Kevin knew any of those things. Himself. I don't think he'd had any direct contact with his dad since he left Mapleton at the beginning of season 2, and so it's hard for me to understand how, if that's all in Kevin's head, how he came up with so many accurate details.
Yeah.
It's like, it's almost like even if that is a vision, it's sort of proof of some kind of larger force outside of Kevin.
Well, actually, I beg to differ. So my theory, or not necessarily theory, but alternative explanation, is that because it's two things, right? Either, like you're saying, it's proof that the hotel is a place you can go to, right? Like it's a flash sideways place or something, or a purgatory, or what? It's like a thing, right? Some other dimension or whatever, and they kind of connect it through that. But I think another explanation could be that the God's tongue. So Kevin is dead, so he's basically, his consciousness is whatever happens to consciousness when you're dead. And then his dad is on God's tongue, which elevates your consciousness. So maybe it's just a consciousness conference, which is a phrase I'm just trademarking now. But maybe that's it. Maybe it was more like telepathy than, so the hotel is in Kevin's head still.
Well, I guess to me, like once you're ready to bring in um, consciousness telepathy or whatever, like it becomes, I mean, it could just be a visualization to like help make sense of the whole thing. But the other people there, I mean, it starts to seem like it could be really possible that they're there. I mean, if he can contact someone outside of his own mind, then you know, and he's there, he's able to do that because he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Then that doesn't rule out the possibility that he could contact other people who are dead as well in the same way. You know, which would give some
Wait, who's contacting dead people?
Kevin Jr.
Yeah, but I mean, what we're talking about here is more confirmation. I mean, yeah, it's weird. Because I does it does let's see what am I trying to say. Does Kevin Sr. being able to communicate in this hotel world with Kevin necessitate that the people in the hotel are actually really dead people? I feel like that could be two separate things.
Yeah,
You know?
it's just some of them we know they're dead.
Yeah.
You know, some of them we don't know at all. And obviously
Mm-hmm.
there's Mary, who is a special, you know, I mean, I feel like her situation, if anything, would be similar to Kevin Sr., that
Mm-hmm.
her consciousness is sort of like out of her body somehow.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point to bring up, though, is that she's in an altered conscious state, so that's an interesting thing to keep in mind in terms of how they're portraying this stuff.
Right.
Different variations.
Yeah. So it's just like, I mean, whether the hotel's real or not, it just seems to me like like, I agree it's not definitive. It's, you know, it could just be what you're saying. Absolutely. 100%. But I'm saying the door is open. Once you go down that road, the door is open that it's possible that even if the hotel's not like a real place in another dimension or whatever, that it's really just a kind of interpretation of contacting these other consciousnesses of people who are either dead or their consciousness is extremely altered in some way. You know, I mean, it seems like that's possible. Now, you know, that's why I wanted him to talk to Mary about it, to see
It's
what her
literally
point of view was.
You literally just described the Flash sideways.
I know.
That's literally what it is. It literally is a place where your consciousness can go to contact other consciousness, and your reality is an interpretation of that to facilitate that. So
yeah, well, you know, he like I said, he comes up with those things, and he likes certain
yeah.
ideas.
So listen, if the hotel is that, I'd much rather believe that, but I do think it kind of matters. I mean, yeah, if you go down that road, then you know, and maybe that bigger, crazier thing is true. But I do think it's an important distinction if like the smaller, crazier thing is true. You know, like it's just consciousness talking to each other. Like that's a smaller craziness than like there's a than them depicting what the actual afterlife is.
Right.
You know, or whatever. Um, but yeah, I think I feel like I should rewatch season 6 of Lost, just so I could see what they're gonna do on season 3 of Leftovers.
Yeah, that's pretty hilarious. I do think that would probably help. I'm definitely expecting some things along similar lines, and you know, I have heard the interpretation that the flashlight was all in Jack's head, you know, and it's the kind of thing that you know, is hard to disprove except for Desmond's thing, you know, and Desmond's thing is sort of like the Kevin Sr. on the TV thing. Yeah. You know, like someone from, of course it is, because, you know, everything from Lost has to show up at some point. Like somehow using technology to contact, you know, and in his case, drugs, to contact, you know, this other realm of consciousness or something like that.
Yeah, but like on Lost, those crazy things were happening, right? I mean, like the constant happened, right? I mean, Desmond didn't just imagine that, right?
Yeah, it seems unlikely, considering like his name was in Faraday's book and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
Also Penny's waiting for the call that they set up in the thing. So it does seem like that all happened.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
But yeah, I mean, I'm curious what other lost tropes might show up. I wouldn't be surprised if there's like a mysterious person in a coffin at some point this season.
Well, yeah. So, speaking of mysterious person, something that really stood out this time, because the I finished the season 2 rewatch, so I'm all caught up now.
Mm-hmm.
Something that really stood out about the hotel when I watched it again is that guy, that like Australian guy. I think he's Australian. He's got an accent. I'm gonna say it's Australian.
The guy at the second time he goes there?
He's there both times.
He's there both times.
The first time he's there on the bridge and he like puts a noose around Kevin's neck and he says like, you have to throw yourself over or throw her down a well. And then the second time he's at the bar and he tells Kevin he has to go sing to get out of there. Mm-hmm. So both times he's sort of a guide, helpful. In a way, he's a lot more helpful than Virgil was, even though Virgil was supposed to be the guide, because Virgil ends up drinking the water, which whatever that means.
There's blood in the water.
Yeah. Anyway, this time it really.
Oh, you know why? You know why Virgil shouldn't have drank the water?
Oh God.
This is a lost joke. Because Jacob died. So it's tainted.
Oh God! The water. Of course, it's already tainted.
Didn't work. Doesn't work now.
Oh God.
Sorry. Go ahead. I had to make a lost joke.
Yeah. No problem. Right. So this time, I really got this feeling that guy. I mean, I originally thought that he was just some mysterious figure that would sort of never be explained. Mm-hmm. This time, I got the sense that it's that he could be that guy, that doctor or whatever in Australia. The one who the Pillar Man sends a letter to in the first episode of season 2. The one who Laurie's potential publisher says, I don't know, he went into a cave and died and then came back and said he couldn't die. Mm-hmm. I started to think, oh, maybe it's that guy, because the accent seems like it's a clue.
Sorry, I don't remember this guy.
So I expected him to show up. I expected him to show up in this episode like multiple times. When he was
the guy that they were referencing.
Who?
The guy in Australia?
Sorry, yeah.
So you're saying in the beginning of season 2?
It's the kind of thing that you don't notice unless you realize that the story's going to Australia, and that was the thing that because I saw the beginning of season 3 before I saw some of this stuff. Mm-hmm. The Australia stuff stood out a lot more. Because of course we know Kevin's dad went there. They tell us that at the beginning of this season. Mm-hmm. But then, like, throughout the season, we see some news reports about Australia, and like I said, the Pillar Man sends a letter, and then there's a publisher who kind of summarizes the situation as like this guy who supposedly died, went to the afterlife, came back, and now he can't die. He's saying it in that context. The publisher's saying it, talking about how like in the world after the departure, there's all these like crazy cult leader types like saying they can do all kinds of stuff, and I think he might talk about Wayne or something like that.
Yeah, he was talking. Was he talking to Nora?
No, it was Laurie.
It was Laurie. Oh, that's right. It was Laurie, the book deal. Yes.
It's about exactly. Laurie's book about
I remember that now. Yeah.
the guilty remnant. And so anyway, like that really stood out when I watched it this time because that's what happened to Kevin Jr. That's the direction the story's going. He supposedly died, came back, and there's this idea that he can't die now. And so it made me think that the storyline is going to go, that they're going to meet this guy. He's going to get involved somehow in the plot. Like and then since he died, this mysterious Australian figure shows up in the hotel. And I thought, well, logically, it really could just be that guy.
So they said that the guy who they thought couldn't die actually did die?
That's what the publisher guy says. Yeah. I mean, that's what the publisher guy says. He said, I don't know if we know anything for sure.
Yeah, but I'm just curious. They specifically said like, oh, people thought he couldn't die, but then he actually ended up dying.
Yeah. Well, no, I think he says he died. He went to the afterlife, and then he came back, and now he can't die.
Oh, I see. Oh, okay. I thought you were saying he's dead in the real world now. That's why he's in the hotel. But you're saying he's in the hotel because the first time he died.
During the period when he died, yeah.
During the period he died.
Exactly.
Or
there is no now here. I mean, yeah. If you want to get technical with the timelines, like it's not going to work.
I see.
But you know what I mean? If there's any allowance for that kind of thing, then like maybe that's actually him. Or maybe he went back. I mean, who knows?
Yeah.
But I'm just going to throw it out there.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting.
I forget what the guy's name. It's like Doctor something. I feel like a shitty fan for not really knowing, but it's
But why is he in there doing Kevin's, like, helping Kevin? In this weird, like...
That would be the question. That would be the question. I mean, I guess, if it's true, then
what it is? You know what the answer is going to be? And this is how I know Lindelof's writing. Because if you ask that guy, well, why did you go to Kevin on the bridge and tell him to do this thing? And why did you go to him at the karaoke thing and tell him to sing? It would be that someone else told him to do it.
Right.
It would be someone else came up to him and said, hey, you need to go over to that guy and tell him he needs to, and he wouldn't have any more information than that about why.
You're right. And you know what? That made me think also? Because I was wondering about how Kevin Sr. knew you got to take Patty to the well. Like, where the fuck did he get that from? I just realized that would be an explanation for that as well.
Yeah. As well. Interesting.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the Lindelof answer. Is that other person told me? Yep. Yeah. Someone told me.
And that doesn't mean I know anything.
Someone told me, and I believe them. Yeah.
I just went along with it. Yeah, because I could totally see him being the kind of character who's, more like Kevin Sr. Just,
Yeah, and that's what got me to that is that I stripped him of the magic, or like the pedestal you would put a character like that on, right?
Right.
Oh, this like third, fourth, fifth hand story about this miraculous guy. Like he must be super important. Therefore, why would he be doing, work for Kevin in Kevin's hotel, But it's like, no, he's just another, he could just be, like you said, just a Joe Schmo, and this thing just happened to him, and he has no idea what's happening.
Right.
And that would totally make sense because that's exactly what Kevin's doing. He's just doing what people tell him to put on the suit, Kevin, or like choose your outfit, Kevin.
Yep.
And he's just following the script, and so that guy could be on his own version of that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. That sounds very plausible.
Yeah, I mean that'd be interesting if we see that guy, back in Australia, like back from the afterlife, and he sees Kevin. Yeah, that'd be interesting.
I'm just gonna throw it out there as a prediction because it really started to feel like that's what it was. knowing that aspect of the story was going to take on a larger significance. Doesn't have to be.
It kind of gives the reason why you would have the same guy in those 2 times at the hotel. Like, why not have 2 different people do those encounters? So it's a good reason why if they're gonna lead up to a bigger or some more story with that guy.
Right. Yeah, so we'll see if he remembers anything. If we actually see him again. But yeah, it's I don't know. You'll see when you get there. It's those scenes are weird. It's a weird. I mean, obviously, all that hotel stuff is pretty crazy. They got birds.
Oh, the birds! I can't wait.
Don't forget the birds.
All right, you want to go to the next section?
Yes, let's do it. Okay, so so let's see. Christopher Sunday, I guess, is the character. He agrees to teach Kevin Sr. the song if he'll fix this this leak or this problem with this swamp cooler, I guess, on the roof. So he goes up there to fix it, but he falls off and hits the guy. And so he ends up in the ambulance, like trying to apologize, but he annoys the paramedics so much that they throw him out of the ambulance. And so he's, I guess, stuck in the middle of the epic. And
whoa! I thought we had an Australian on the podcast for just 1 second there. That was so authentic.
It's hard. It's a hard accent. I'm just gonna say it. I would need a lot more work to get it right. But yeah. Anyway, he's stuck there. He's got crutches and he's just kind of walking. And then he encounters this guy who stops in a VW Beetle, I guess, and pours gasoline on the car and himself, and he says, "They didn't take me," whatever that means. And although I'm sure there are theories, and then he asked Kevin Sr., "Would you kill a baby if it would cure cancer?" And then he says no, and then the man sets himself on fire. So Kevin Sr. continues from there. After, I guess it starts raining after that, which ruins the tape recorder and the tape, which isn't working. Then he comes across a snake, and he's gonna try to eat the snake, but the snake doesn't die when he hits it, and so he gets bitten. And then he finds this like cross with stuff on it, and he sort of, I don't know, he lays down in front of it, and he sees like someone's coming, but then he kind of passes out and wakes up in a house, and there's a dog there, and he calls Matt again. Finds out it's been 3 weeks. He finds out that the guy Christopher Sunday was killed, I guess. And we see there's some people outside there, like building a large boat. And then he goes in the freezer and finds a photo album. Yes, that's what happened. And we see pictures of, I guess, the woman from the last episode, the leader of the posse. What do we call them? The they had a name, the something posse. Anyway.
Oh, the Dunking Kevin posse.
The Dunking Kevin posse.
The DKP.
The DKP.
Or was it Kevin Dunking posse? KDP.
Yeah, close. And so then, finally, after looking through the photo album, he sees her family and all that stuff. Later that night, finally we get the replay of the scene from the last episode from his point of view. We see that he goes outside, sees them all in person, I guess, for the first time, and they shoot him with a tranquilizer dart.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a section there.
Okay. There's a lot happened in this section. So yeah, I feel like the alternate title of The Leftovers is Things Fall Apart. Because that's really just kind of what happens to these characters. Like things just get worse and worse and worse. And that's just it. And what's great is, I mean, not only is that like life for a lot of people, so it's relatable, but that's the driving force of storytelling is conflict and obstacles. So it's that's why it's so good, because like just when you think everything can't get any worse, and now it's raining. And really this whole section, before he gets saved, is him sort of being stripped of everything he has, and little by little, and then, so it's very, very interesting. Again, like, if he's talk about being on a walkabout, I mean, geez, if you don't find enlightenment by the end of this, I mean, what are you going through it for? But yeah, the whole comic irony of him killing the guy that he came to see, that he needs to find in order to
teach
save the
him,
whole world.
bring the rain song so he can stop the rain.
Yeah, and and then the slap in the face to the audience, the sort of implied slap in the face to the audience of how dare you think that like we were gonna go down that path story-wise.
Right.
Did you really think we were gonna cut to a shot of this guy teaching this crazy white fella this sacred song, and then he was gonna potentially do it and stop the flood? I mean, you know what I mean? Like, there's that thing in this style of storytelling that that I think delights in bemusing the audience. But also like is a little bit not mean spirited, but pointed, in that pursuit, I think. Because I feel like it's like a 1-2 punch. We're all geared up for this whole last song he needs. Listen, we have the map. He's crossed all the, you know what I mean? Like he's got all these lines. There's one spot left. It's part of this long journey. It's the whole episode's been about this so far.
Yeah.
And so your mind is willing to say, okay, we'll open up the possibility that that's where this thing is going to go. But you forget that, well, the whole point of the story is for him to get to where we left off with him in the present,
Right.
And he wasn't necessarily doing a rain dance then.
Right.
But yeah, I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah. It's presenting this like mystical quest, and then like kind of like getting rid of it almost in a jokey way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's comical, like the way, like, I fell off the roof and I killed the guy who had the secret to saving the world. Oops. Like, really? That's...
Mm-hmm.
That's where we're going? Like, it's just, I think that has been something about these first 3 episodes that's been kind of weird. There's been this weirdly comedic tone to a lot of scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Things that I could imagine like a normal show like treating seriously, as plot points, and like the Book of Kevin like is also like that. I mean, you finally get like another character to read it, and he's like, "This is a piece of crap. Like, fuck this."
Yep. And that's the other thing too I meant to say about that, about Kevin Sr.'s response was, his objection was that he wasn't in it, and he actually didn't really, if I remember correctly, really offer any opinion about what was there, right? Like, what do you think about this idea that Kevin can't die?
Right.
What do you think about this account of his life? And he did, if I remember correctly, have a little bit of like, whatever is going on with Kevin is really about me. But I would have loved more
Yeah.
about how he thinks this particular aspect of Kevin's specialness, which is, he's not necessarily hearing voices outside the Patty thing, but
Right.
his big thing is that he can't die or whatever. How does that really connect to, um, Kevin Senior's quest to save the world with the rain dance, and that wasn't really in his explanation either about how he was going to stop it, like, but I guess that's the point. Is Kevin's not really a part of that, so it's really, yeah. I thought that was interesting. He was just upset about he wasn't in it, but I'm like, come on, dude. But what do you think about what the book
He
actually
didn't
is?
really have an opinion about
Yeah.
specifically what's there, not just what's not there.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And
He wasn't like, oh my god, this happened to my son. That's crazy. What does this mean? He didn't really think about the implications of that.
right, right. Well, and I saw a few like reviewers bring up like that. I mean, I don't know. We don't know exactly how detailed it is. I also
Hmm.
feel like I don't really know how much Kevin shared about what happened in the hotel, you
Hmm.
know, because I got to the scene where he tells Michael about the hotel, but it's pretty brief though,
Hmm.
like he mostly just says like I was in a hotel and I stopped Patty, I'm not seeing her anymore, he doesn't elaborate. He doesn't give him the full rundown of all the crazy
Hmm.
things that happened. So like what does the book say happened to him in the hotel, or did he like tell him more later? Anyway, the point I'm making is just that if Kevin Senior read the book of Kevin, it's at least possible that there's a description in there of his coming on the TV, and that would be something I would be really curious about. If he
Yeah,
if
I feel like
he
Kevin Senior would have said that though. If he
if it's
was,
there, that's
if
proof
it's
that it's
there,
not there.
he would have been like, I'm not in this except for when my son saw me on TV. I feel like that would have come there.
Right.
But what I found most interesting about this section of the whole Book of Kevin storyline was which wasn't, which I mean, it started with the whole idea of Matt and uh Mike, is it Michael?
Yeah, yeah, Michael.
Why that didn't come to me? I'm like, Michael sounds wrong.
It sounded wrong to me too, but I'm pretty sure it's right.
um, them writing this book of him, like the Gospels, it harkens back to the people who are around Jesus and writing about
Right.
his accounts and the tales. And this whole section I thought was really, really interesting because, like, it goes exactly what you were saying. Like, a book that long with so few details actually communicated directly from Kevin means there's a lot that's embellished. There's a
Yeah.
lot that's stretched out. There's a lot that is the author's words. And I
Yeah.
thought this was a really, really, really succinct and interesting depiction of how religious texts are made and created, and especially like the moment when Kevin Senior opens it up and immediately starts editing it. I'm like, oh my god! I mean, if this isn't proof the Bible is not the original word of God, if there's a thing, if this is the scene, because somebody sat down, whoever
Yeah.
wrote whoever, if it was directly transcribed from God to another person and they wrote it down, the person they gave it to edited it.
Yeah,
you
yeah,
know
definitely.
and I just thought that it was just, there was something about that moment that just really struck me, like that was his first impulse, was to edit it, not to like read the whole thing and make a judgment about it after the fact. It was like, no, as I'm reading it without knowing where it's going, there's things that are wrong here. And I thought that was like really interesting. But just the general idea of kind of dramatizing, like, some small microcosmic version of, like, you know, the creation of religious text.
Right.
Because, if that Bible survived the ages, there could be a religion based on Kevin. It all goes to what people end up believing.
Right. Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It seems like that's going to be part of the point this season. I guess that was something that really hit me at some point in the rewatch that and with season 3 in mind, religion plays a pretty big role in the leftovers. It's kind of like a major topic.
Oh, it's yeah. I mean, that's why they have Reza Aslan as a consulting producer or
Yeah.
whatever he is on there, because it's embedded in
Like
the
I would
show.
say, like more so than Lost.
Oh, for sure.
Like
Yeah.
Lost had religion in it, but I think it wasn't as heavily featured
Mhm. Mhm.
as it is here. Um, so
And
yeah,
it's interesting because the characters aren't particularly religious.
right.
The main characters,
Except for Matt, but yeah.
except for Matt, like he's the only. I mean, he's a preacher, so of course he is.
Right.
Um,
But
you know.
yeah. No, you're right. You're right. They're not overwhelmingly religious.
It's not a show about people who are in a religion. You know what I mean? They're not
Right.
all like Catholic and they go to mass every other episode.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's uh
And there's actually very little talk of God, if I remember correctly, right? I mean, in terms of like characters trying to figure out what's happening and why, I don't, they're, I don't. There's not a lot of characters like God, what's happening?
uh yeah. Although I guess Kevin Sr. yells at God in this episode.
Yeah,
But
he deserves.
uh but yeah, it doesn't come up a ton. Um it's really like the function that religion has for people in this world, like more so than the mythology or the content. Although, I mean, there's a lot of reference to the rapture and stuff like that as far as the
Hmm.
departure goes.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's like the about belief,
yeah,
really, and faith.
right, and that's one of the big ways that that we can recognize, I guess, that you would have that. And I guess the idea is that in this world, it opens up the door for like having a new religion in a way that a world without the departure wouldn't be as friendly to that.
Wait, say that again.
Like I guess the idea is that in this world where you had this sudden departure, it,
Hmm.
it created this environment that's maybe friendlier for the creation of a new religion
Mm.
than without the departure.
Yeah, I could see that.
You know.
Well, I mean, for the very, at least for the fact that you have, like they said on the show, you have more people going around saying they're magical,
Right.
and therefore trying to get people to follow them. So,
Yeah.
yeah, that alone will increase, the number of people going, yeah, okay, yeah, if you give me magic hugs, I'll believe in you.
Yeah.
And because,
So.
like, there's somebody out there who gives magic high fives, right? Because it's like the hug is arbitrary. I mean, it has to do with, like, I think, the reason it's a hug and not like, a fist bump. I think it's, more, the human connection and all
Right.
that stuff for the emotional
Yeah.
release and all that. But besides that, it's kind of arbitrary. But I like the magic. I can make your problems go away with a high five. That's all it is. It's a quick and easy
Right.
high five.
Right. Right. Uh, so I just wanted to bring up. Do you have any thoughts about this guy he encounters who burns himself?
So many thoughts. Oh geez. Again, things fall apart. Like when, he's in the outback, he's got like no food and water, he's on crutches. A car in the distance, like miraculously shows up. And of course it's the one guy who drives to the middle of nowhere to kill himself. um, why did you drive to that spot, dude? It seems like if you're gonna, light yourself on fire, you could do that anywhere. But you think, in the exact moment you think there's possible rescue, you see, oh no, this is a worse situation.
Right.
But so what's the thing about this guy? So the idea is that he said they didn't take me.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the two obvious ideas with that would be he didn't depart, or
Right.
he didn't get the job, or he wasn't included in something kind of normal.
Right.
So do you have an opinion about which one you think it is, or if you have another theory about what that means?
Yeah, I wanted to tie it into the departure death ray, um, but
Mm.
but it doesn't really make sense to me. I could never make it work.
Good
But
thinking, though. Wow, that's a good thing to keep in mind. I forgot about that.
yeah, I mean,
That storyline's still going.
yeah, since that's where it's headed, and I guess like the thing that really stands out about this scene is that it has no explanation or resolution within the episode,
Mm-hmm.
and it also has no clear plot function.
Yeah, yeah,
And so that makes me think that that they're gonna explain this.
yeah, yeah. I can
Um,
see that.
and so so then I thought, like, what would the explanation be? And I guess, like, since we don't know that much about Australia, but I mean, like, I don't know if there's actually it wasn't clear to me from the way he described it. Like, if you have your money, I don't know. I guess they called Nora, so maybe there's some weird verification process or something, or maybe
Mm-hmm.
they thought he was like mentally unfit or something. I mean, that's something you have to do in those videos that Nora was watching. To say you're of sound mind and body, and you're making this decision, and
Mm-hmm.
full awareness of blah blah. Like maybe they decided he wasn't capable of doing that, and they didn't take him in that sense. I guess that's what I was going to try to tie it to.
Yeah, yeah. That's good. Yeah, I can see that.
And if he's already ready to do that, then
Yeah, actually, the sudden departure doesn't make sense if he says they didn't take me,
right,
because it wasn't a they,
right,
and it was a while ago.
right. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah. It was almost 7 years ago.
yeah, yeah. Nice. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Um, yeah. So, uh, I think this scene might be a Walkabout the movie reference. It definitely felt that way to me.
Oh, nice.
That movie opens with a guy like going to a picnic with his kids, and like in Australia, and suddenly he just starts shooting at them, and then he burns himself
Yeah,
alive, just like this.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, since it's Australia, and he does the same thing, and I think he even has the same car, or at least something similar.
Mm-hmm. Nice.
It seemed to me. I mean, I don't know for sure, but I wouldn't be surprised. Um, right. So, stuff about the. Uh, let's see. Yeah, stuff about the house, building the boat. What's up with building the boat?
Let's see. Well, for the flood, I thought they were actually gonna say it.
Yeah, that does seem like the thing. But then why do they think there's a flood? I mean, that was just
Why
Kevin
does he think
Senior's
there's a
crazy
flood?
ass idea. Well, yeah, but you know what I mean. They must have a different reason, right? I mean, surely it wasn't the chicken made that, or maybe it was. I don't know, but like, where did they get the idea? It's weird that they would coincidentally have the same idea. But maybe it's not weird. Maybe it's just David Lindelof. I don't know. But it's, like, that seems like a weird coincidence. That's what made me think it couldn't be that, right? That's too, like, why would they come up with the same thing? It just seems so random. Oh, there's going to be a flood. Like, okay, really? Like, why do you think that?
Well, it definitely serves a function of sort of validating that he's on the right path, right? Because it seems to validate his personal, his own connection to that idea.
Right.
But from their perspective, yeah, I mean, listen, I don't know what Australians do in their free time. Do they build arcs? I wouldn't put it past them. No.
I wouldn't either, but yeah.
No. So I mean, maybe there's some other like explanation for it. But yeah, what could that be?
It's like the church, like, I don't know, got knocked down or it got burned down or something happened.
It's gonna burned. Obviously there's a connection to the church from the beginning of the season, from the flashback.
Oh right,
it's that same kind of small one big room church.
Right, the bird church.
Bird church. Yikes! I don't think I've ever said those two words together before. Bird church.
Bird church.
My brain was like, "Huh, that's new."
It's the church where you take your birds. I mean,
well, yeah,
the birds that arrive, but be sure that you take their messages off of them and throw them away first.
Yeah,
because they don't want to read that shit.
The Church of Latter-day Birds.
Exactly. It's time for some Latter-day Birds.
And there's a ladder on the church.
Oh God.
The show is in our heads.
Oh God.
So anyway, I don't know why they're building this arc. I have to call it an arc. There's nothing else for it to be.
Yeah, that seems like a logical inference. Maybe it's just decoration. Maybe they're just gonna like do like a church themed reenactment.
God. I like trying to podcast soon after the episode airs, but then I don't know what's in the episode, and I have to waste time trying to remember. Because in the scene when he goes up to him, he says, does he tell them you have a boat? Do they acknowledge that they're building a boat?
I don't remember them acknowledging that they're building a boat.
Because I think what's happening here is they're not building a boat. I think they're working on the church, and the boat is like a maybe old failed project from the past, and that's the answer.
You sure they're not doing both?
Or they're doing both.
That was my. Although I didn't even notice the church, but yeah, that was my assumption once I realized the church was there.
Let me see what he said. Oh, he said, "You're building a boat." She says, "Huh?"
Classic leftovers. Huh?
Wait, literally, hold on. Oh, sorry. Maybe she says, "Uh-huh." Sorry. Let me see what she says. Huh?
Huh?
And the scene ends with no verification. Okay.
It is weird that they have two building projects going on at the same time.
Yeah, hold on one second. Let me listen. Oh, it looks like she said uh-huh. Okay. Looks like she verified it. And he says for the flood. And she smiles, sort of, and he looks weird at him. Then they don't seem to acknowledge the flood. They don't seem to acknowledge it. So I think it's one of those classic things where, he's misplacing meaning, and they don't know about the flood. They're building it for something else. They're building because they're Australians. They build a boat on their free time.
Australians just build boats sometimes.
Do it.
That's just a thing they do.
Yeah. They do. And listen, that's a compliment. Building a boat is hard.
Hey, I've never built a boat, and I probably will never build a boat.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
I feel like they just have the like national fortitude to be able to do it,
yeah, I mean, my hat's off to anyone who builds boats, especially
You can
people
survive with
who
all those deadly animals.
like build boats for a hobby. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, that's crazy. We have a
You know,
whole renovation project to do over there, but we're building a boat in
you
addition to
know what?
that.
You know what's funny and ironic? Touting their like manual. What's the word for that? The construction prowess or whatever. I saw this video on the internet of this like 13-year-old girl who's famous for her blacksmithing. Um, she makes these like super fancy daggers and knives and stuff. And she's Australian. That's it's just yeah.
Oh,
Uh,
really?
yeah. It was funny. It was funny because I was watching the video like without sound, and I was just reading the title subtitles, and then I
Yeah.
just clicked on it, and so I heard her talk. I was like, because I was like, oh, I wonder where she's from, and I was like, oh, she's Australia. Of course, she's a master blacksmith.
Yeah, that's just a thing you
Yeah,
do.
I thought that was
If you're
great.
8
Yeah.
in Australia, like it's time to learn to be a blacksmith.
That's very accurate. Again, where do we get these Australian guests for such a brief time? They come on, they say one thing and leave. So anyway, where are we? What are we talking about here? Okay, the boat.
The
We covered the
boat, the
boat.
boat.
They are building
Yeah,
a boat. We don't know why they're building a boat. It's going
they
to be
did
for
not agree that it
practical
was for a
reasons.
flood.
They did
Yeah,
not agree it's for a flood.
yeah. They just kind of looked at each other like, So yeah, you're right. It seems like it's probably going to be something more reasonable
Mm-hmm.
to go with the pattern. But it is weird. But maybe the point is that it's not weird, and the only reason I think it's weird is because I don't usually build boats in my spare time.
Mm-hmm.
But in Australia, that's just the thing. So
Yeah.
deal with it.
Deal with it.
All right. So, are you ready to go on to the next thing?
No way.
Oh, okay.
So much.
Okay.
There's so
Sorry.
much.
Sorry.
So I want to go back to a thing that I forgot to talk about, which I thought was kind of interesting. It relates to the storytelling of this show. When Kevin Senior goes to the lady who has the address for Christopher Sunday.
Right.
The scene starts. He walks into the office, and the first thing we see is that there's a wanted sign for him, wanted for questioning. And so you go, oh wow, okay, so whoever office this is already is on the lookout for this guy because there's a huge sign there.
Yeah.
So when she walks in and she's talking to him, sort of the pall over that whole scene was this wanted for questioning sign. I'm like, oh, she knows who he is. He's the crazy guy.
Right.
She's just pretending to be nice and not freaking out because this is how she's choosing to handle the situation, knowing that this wanted guy is here now. So I go through the whole scene, with like this misinterpretation of what she knows, only to like get to the end of the scene going, oh wow, okay, wow, he's gonna get what he wants. Wow, that's weird. Doesn't she know who he is? And then she turns and sees the thing and then freaks out because she didn't know who he was.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a really interesting sort of trap that they planted. So I don't know, did you fall into that trap? Did you think that she had already seen that wanted poster before, or did you not think about it?
No, I assumed that that had been posted there, and like maybe she had looked at it, but I didn't assume that she would automatically recognize him from the thing, because I guess I assumed she wouldn't necessarily have spent a lot of time looking at it. Because if she's just working in the office or whatever, she's not expecting to see him there.
Mm-hmm.
She's not expecting him to show up there. And so, yeah, I didn't think she was going to recognize him.
Yeah, maybe I guess because it seemed like a small office and it seemed like it's her office that she put that up there. That I don't know. I guess I added some importance to that. That it's like that this is like a big deal that this guy's on the loose,
Right,
and
right, right.
and she went to the trouble of putting it on the board.
Right. And yeah, I don't
But
really know how big of a deal it is.
yeah. But no, it's reasonable that she just might not have recognized him out of But I mean, he's known to be in the area, so it's like it is possible he is looking for these elders, and she is the woman who like knows this stuff. They are. Like so.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a little bit there, but yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, I thought it was a trap because I fell into it.
Right, right, right. Yeah, yeah. No, I
And because it kind of bookmarks the scene
I think I
or
was
bookends.
distracted about what was going on, just thinking about this plot and where it was going, and so I think I wasn't really worried. I guess I assumed the plot would progress, um, and so and it does. Like he ends up just like taking the thing, and it kind of doesn't
Yeah,
matter.
I guess because they decided to show us that up front in the scene instead of normally the way this scene goes is the person sees the wanted sign at the end of the scene and they go, oh no,
Right.
because the audience knows who the character is the whole time, and that's enough dramatic irony for the scene to work. But so then putting it up front to me, I thought was like, okay, just so the audience knows this office is on the lookout for our guy. That's what I thought
Right.
the point was of that. Of like, okay, because otherwise they could have just not had the sign. Obviously the ending would have been different. But
Right. Right. Right.
yeah. Anyway, so I just want to go back and say that. I mean, generally his whole walkabout adventure I thought was very compelling, super interesting. I love seeing characters suffer. Um, that's the writer in me.
Ouch.
I mean, that's the writer in me. That's what we do. I mean, we don't. I mean, I don't get pleasure out of it. I didn't mean to intimate that, but I love it because it's compelling and it makes for great acting and storytelling.
Yeah.
The whole thing and him and then um, having to like take shelter in the burnt out VW and like there's he there's vodka but not water.
Right.
Like these little like things that twist the knife, and then yeah, right when what did he curse at God, and then it rains,
Yeah.
and then he gets the last most important thing taken away from him, these tapes, and then and then the whole thing with the knife, with the snake, I thought was really interesting, and like he's like like he comes across his spirit animal of all things,
Right.
and he's got to like make peace with having to eat it, and but then like it gets the last bite, it's yeah, it reminds me of something like this is what Locke wanted, this is what we would have seen Carrie
Definitely.
Quinn do on a different version of Lost, like is go through this thing and be like tested by nature and all this stuff.
Right.
But yeah, I thought that was interesting. And I guess we'll get to it when they talk about it. But just the kind of kismet of him landing in the spot where what is it? Her daughter's buried there.
Yeah, yeah. Well, all of her kids, I guess.
Oh, all that's right. All of them.
I think they all died there.
Yeah, that's right.
I guess that's the idea.
And then thought it was interesting there wasn't a lot of food in their refrigerator. Because
Yeah.
when the scene was playing and I'm trying to figure out where he is and stuff, or details about this place, I thought that was just interesting. Because the rest of the place seems very lived in, but then there was like not a lot of food. And I was like, are people still living here? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, they get a lot of takeout. I don't know.
A lot of takeout on the Outback. Take you out back.
I don't know. Ooh. But yeah. I mean, to the extent that she's using the freezer to store her photographs.
Mm-hmm. Which I Googled, and that's not a thing.
I hope that's not a thing.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a thing. I had Googled like photo album in freezer to see if like that's just a thing people know to do. Like, don't you put your, valuable photographs in the freezer
Yeah.
during, the summer because it's better, I don't know.
Oh, right. They had to preserve them or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would make sense. But I've definitely never heard of that.
No, I don't think it's a thing. So where are we with the recap? Where did we get to?
The tranquilizer dart. He comes out on the women murdering the guy and gets shot with a tranquilizer dart. Did you want to say anything about the other stuff, or you want me to go on?
Yeah, let me see. So he talks to Matt
Yeah.
again, right? That was the other thing I was gonna say with the first phone call is that like I didn't know they had a relationship, that they like knew each other, or at least I don't remember what they said about
Isn't
that
that
before.
established in season 1? With the money.
Yeah. That's right. Yeah, they did do the money thing. I guess they don't ever talk to each other, right? It's
uh,
just that they.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't think they talk to
They
each other.
might talk to each other at the end, but
Okay.
but yeah, I mean it implies some kind of relationship.
Yeah, I guess I'm more mean like it was just interesting just to see what their relationship was, when them actually talking to each other and
Yeah. You're right.
what it actually was. I guess that's what I mean.
Right.
They're not like best friends.
Yeah. Clearly not. Especially not
Clearly.
now.
And then yeah, so he looks at the photo album, and then she wakes up, and then they have a little chat, and so I guess so. Then we go back out. Sorry, have we gotten to the thing where we go back out and yeah, and they're killing the guy?
Yeah. The last thing I said was that he gets shot with the
I see.
tranquilizer dart.
Cool. All right, yeah, we can move on.
Okay, so then he wakes up, and this woman who I guess is named Grace,
Mm-hmm.
um, uh, uh, she says she's going to turn herself in for murdering the guy, and then she tells her story. This is her like long explanation for this is how I ended up doing that stuff from the end of episode 2. So see if you can follow, kids, because this one gets a bit weird too. So she let's see, she was I guess she was at the store when the departure happened, and she believed it was the rapture, as many did. Um, when she arrived at home, she didn't see anyone there. The Bibles in the church were in a row, and she came to assume that her whole family had departed.
Mm-hmm.
2 years later, 2 years later, they discovered the remains of her children, and she
Yeah.
realized that actually all of her children did not depart, but they
Mm-hmm.
set off looking for her, I guess, or looking for someone. And she never looked for them because she assumed they departed, and so I guess they just died in the Itbik.
Yeah, because what she assumes is that the father departed and the kids were left alone. Uh, so she thinks that her husband departed, but
Right.
not the kids.
Right, exactly. So, uh, yeah, but
Which
they,
was the what? Sorry, but that's the that's the when is it an A or B, right? Did they depart or not depart? And
yeah,
it's like it's C, it's
of
A and B,
course,
it's both things. It's there's four people involved, or however many people it is, and it's like different thing,
six, I
it's not.
think,
Is it six? Yeah, you know what I mean. So it's
five
not like
children, and
it's
yeah,
not binary for the whole group,
right,
so it's like they each thing different things could have happened. Half could have disappeared and half couldn't. There's all these different combos that she didn't think of. She just assumed they all went.
yeah, and this idea is like something that surprisingly I don't think they've done before, which is, you know, not so they've done they've done like a whole family departed, they've done faking a departure,
Mm-hmm.
but what they haven't done is like assuming someone departed but actually they didn't,
Mm-hmm.
sort of resulting in their death.
It's
um
kind of like the Perfect Strangers thing, where but it's not a like a deceitful fake. Yeah, it's not someone faking it, but they are alive. They didn't depart, so
right,
it's in that category. But it's like a different reason that they're gone. It's kind of like the Evie thing, right? It's like they decided to leave, which is what her kids did. They decided to leave the
right,
area. They just had a different reason.
right,
But yeah, it's a thing you don't apparently think about for until 2 years later.
right,
Um, yeah,
yeah,
which is again very Lindelof, very lost, of
completely,
this like
yeah,
this tragedy born from this like oversight in misplaced meaning,
yeah.
I didn't really understand the Bibles in a row thing when she said that that's how she knew they were all gone, and I know she had talked about that before, right? She said something about the Bibles. Did you understand that? Because she said I already knew the chapel would be empty before I stepped inside, so she knew that they weren't there before she got there. So then when she got there, what she saw was there were Bibles, uh, all nice and neat in a row. So is she just saying because they weren't there, they departed? She's not
Yeah,
saying like okay,
I think that's all she's
and
saying.
okay, they were. I don't know. I thought she was saying something about like if the Bibles weren't there, then that would have told her something else. You know what I mean? Like what?
Yeah, well, I think if the Bibles had been like disturbed or moved around or whatever, it would be evidence that they had been there and uh, I guess possibly hadn't departed or at least like
That doesn't make sense to me though. Why?
yeah, I
Why
agree. It
being in a
doesn't really
row
make sense.
means to me if they're in a row that means they were untouched. In a way, like to me that
But I
means
guess the idea is they were supposed to touch them. At least that's what I
yeah. So wouldn't
assumed.
they be? Why would they be in a row if they're? I don't know. Something
I
about this
assume
is
that's
not
how
getting.
they leave them normally.
So okay, so when we're leaving the church, we're done with church stuff. We're gonna leave our Bibles all nice and neat in a row,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so she's supposing I still don't get it because because what is she supposing happened? Like why why couldn't they have just never gone to the church and so
Well,
they
I guess
never disturbed
I
them?
guess they were supposed to have gone to the church, and
So
in
but
her
okay,
mind, if they didn't go to the church, the only explanation
that's
could be that they
I
departed.
still don't get it because if she's supposing that, okay, the rapture happened, of course, their first stop is the church. They're gonna be in the church.
No, I
Oh wait,
assumed they were going to
that's
go to the
sorry,
church anyway.
sorry, because the rapture happened, they wouldn't be in the
Yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. Sorry. So they would have been in the church for
Yeah,
whatever reason. So, but if they're in the church and they're using their Bibles and the
yeah,
rapture happens,
yeah.
to
Then they
me
shouldn't be in a neat
they
row.
shouldn't be in a neat row, and I feel like she's trying. That's why I don't understand how that's supposed to mean anything. Because to me, if they're in a neat row, it means they weren't used. They didn't go there. They weren't at the church, or they were at the church and they left them neat in a row and then left.
Yeah,
Walked out.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
that was a weird. I just didn't understand that part. Maybe I'm making too much out of it for sure, but I just didn't understand like what the Bibles being in a row, how that was evidence to her that they had departed.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it was just a timing thing. Like they were supposed to be there at some particular time, and based on that, like if they never disturbed them, then they must have departed. If they were disturbed, then maybe she would have had the idea that they were still around somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I get what they're trying to say.
If the timing was, if the timing was that specific.
But again, like they could be in a row and they have never went to the church, and she's wrong to suppose that they were at the church to begin with.
Oh, I agree. She's making assumptions. That's 100% clear.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I mean, some of them are not really warranted. In my mind, the assumption she's about to make.
I guess the point is that it
crazy.
doesn't matter. Sorry. Go ahead. I cut you off. What were you saying?
No. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
That's fine.
I guess the point is, it doesn't matter what she thinks about the Bibles. You know what I mean? Like that doesn't really matter. What matters is what she believes the meaning of it is.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm getting bogged down with like trying to make a logical connection to what she inferred it meant, but that doesn't matter because she could have thought the opposite. Just as easily, and that would have been, the case. Yeah.
So. Right. I saw the Bibles open and on the floor, and that's when I knew that they.
That's when I knew God showed me. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
The point is she believed it was a sign, not that she's got some evidence it was a sign or something.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. But okay. What a story.
So it continues from there. That was like part one of the story. So that's I guess that's the background.
Okay.
So she moved the cross from the church to the spot where the kids had died, I guess, and that's where Kevin Sr. Passed out, and she found him there. She found the page from the book of Kevin describing a police chief named Kevin who drowned, and here's I'm reading now, who drowned, freed the dead from their pain, and rose again. Okay. Sure that it was a sign, especially with a police chief named Kevin living nearby. She went to find him, and thinking that it was a test, that he, I don't know, that he wasn't cooperating or something, she drowned him, and then I guess when he died, realized that it was all a farce or something, and so now she doesn't think it was a special message or whatever, and God doesn't care about me, but then Kevin Sr. decides to come in with the final line. Well, you just got the wrong Kevin.
Ba-dum-bum. Yeah.
So that's the end of the episode.
Yeah, you gotta love it.
So like I'm confused, honestly, about a lot of things. I mean, I didn't even get to the Bibles. I wasn't even worried about the Bibles because I was worried about this stuff.
Yeah.
So she finds him there. At the spot, so I guess that's what gives it meaning. It's like it's the spot where the kids died. So like maybe that means this has some significance. Mm-hmm. So she takes the page. Okay. We don't know what the book says. We've never read it, but who drowned? I mean, no. He did not drown.
The whole point was that it was even more miraculous. And that's what is interesting about this whole writing a scripture thing is the conflation of events, right? Because what they're conflating is, A, he died, there was a time he was in water and could have drowned.
Right.
And the whole passing the afterlife thing, they like put those things all together when the whole point of the lake thing was that the earthquake stopped it, which could have equally been at one of his miracles, right? Cause the ground to open up and swallow or you know what I mean? Like that could have easily been the line, but it's interesting that what they give us is this conflation of events that's not quite accurate.
Right. And like the show, this is the kind of thing that, on certain shows, I mean, if they ran long enough, I might think they're just getting it wrong. But I mean, I don't really believe that they don't remember what happened last season.
Man, what a great observation. I feel like that is such a touchstone to like the beginning of the Lost Lowdown and like how we used to think about the show and how we, all of the discussions we had about, well, what does that mean? And why would they say it this way this time and this time? They could have just said the exact same thing, but then they said, and like, does it mean, is it this? Is it a prop mistake? Is it an actor mistake? Is it whatever? The continuity error? Is it purposeful? Is it,
deleted scene?
The plethora of like variations and explanations. You're totally right. Like to me, that's like, man, that goes way back there, and to see now how natural it is to assume like that it's not a mistake. They're trying to say something with that,
right?
That they may or may not make a point of later, but that one of the answers to that might be that they're trying to make you question that, like they're pointing it out, so what do you do now that you've noticed it seems wrong? What do you think about that? I think it's kind of how it should go. Instead of going, that's just wrong. That's not what happened. It's like, okay, well, great. You got the first part. That's what they wanted you to say. That's wrong. Now, what does it mean that it's wrong?
Right. Yeah, it's strange. I'm not really sure. I'm not really sure what it means because I feel like, I mean, I guess, I don't know. I mean, maybe he never told anyone. I guess I thought people would know, the people involved in writing the book would know what happened to Kevin as far as the drowning goes. I mean, did she just skim it really quickly and not pay attention?
I think it's all, I think this is, like I said, I think this is a dramatization of what it's like to record a biblical tale of somebody, you know what I mean? Of like, or really a biography of somebody. I mean, really, that's kind of what it is at a very basic level. But you know what I mean? So, but I think we're getting to see the variations of that in this game of telephone, really, kind of, right? Because it's being interpreted by multiple people now. Because she's reiterating. I mean, she's telling us, but I mean, and he knows what the page said. I believe, he did kind of tear out a random page. But he did read all of it, so he might not know that specific page, but she's telling what's on it anyway. I lost my train of thought. Sorry, I was thinking about whether he knew what was on that page or not. Oh man, I lost my train of thought. What was I just talking about? Sorry, I forgot the point I was making.
Let's see.
We were talking about what does it mean? What does it mean?
Oh yeah. What does it mean that it's wrong?
That it's wrong. And my point was going to be, this whole dramatization of how the details kind of get wrong because it's like reinterpreted, through these various people, So I think to me that's kind of what the point of it is just to show like, yeah, Matt didn't get all the details, You know, he is, like I said before, like the book is long compared to what Kevin could have possibly told them.
Right, directly.
You know, yeah. So there's a lot in there that, you know, and there's artistic flourishes, and I'm sure he's trying to, you know, make things connect thematically and make points and have it mean something and say something. So he's adding a lot of stuff to it.
Yeah.
And I think he it was probably an editorial note that he was like, it's better this way. It's better if, you know, I don't want to confuse the reader with, okay, he could have drowned, but he didn't. You know, I want to make it more direct and just be like, no, he did drown. That's how he died. You know.
Right.
And then went to the afterlife. And the same thing with the other part, right? Of like this sort of interpretation that he released the dead from their pain, right? Like that's not an idea that anybody had.
You know, I never would have put it that way.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, rewatching the thing with Patty, I think I can see if Kevin described that experience in detail, I could see coming away with that sort of interpretation. At least for Patty, it's not clear that he did that for anybody else.
Yeah, I think, yeah, but I don't see Kevin describing it that way. I definitely see Matt interpreting it that way.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, I don't think Kevin was like, I went to this hotel and I released Patty from her sins. I mean, from her pain.
Yeah.
You know, because to him the whole point was, you know, like, I mean, yeah, I see what you're saying, but yeah.
Like it's not like that's what I was trying to say. It's not the way I would ever describe it. But I could see having that interpretation. I mean, it's a stretch to describe it as though like it's a thing he just did. You know, I mean, it's a thing he did for one person who was bothering the shit out of him.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like he just like, you know, went around to the dead and like, how can I release your pain? You know, like that didn't happen. So I guess, I mean, it's still wrong, but like, I get where that comes from. I guess it's just like the drowned thing.
Yeah.
It's like, you get the origin when you know the story, but it's just off. But okay, so I was wondering, like, so how did she make the leap that, I mean, what was the point? Like, okay, it talks about a police chief named Kevin, and so, but what does she want him to do? Like, does she want him to like relieve her kids of their pain or something? Like, is that the idea? Like, what's the plan for Kevin?
Yeah, she said she wanted him to help her talk to her children.
Okay.
So I guess the idea is that she thinks, oh, because that's right. That's interesting. That's interesting. We're actually playing with a duality here of where Kevin goes when he dies, right? So one thing is like the whole where, you know, he possibly like where the departed people went, and one is where the dead people go.
Right.
So she thinks he went where the dead people go, and that's where her children are.
Right.
So yeah, that he could, yeah, relay a message to them, because she feels guilty. She wants to apologize for them and say, you know, I apologize, you know, for leaving you guys. I didn't mean to abandon you, and it's my fault. You know, she has a guilty conscience, and it's just like Nora. It's the exact same thing Nora wants.
Right.
And that's the other thing I was going to say. We were talking about the different combinations of how they've depicted people who've departed. You know, we saw a double version of 4 people and only one not going, you know, with Perfect Strangers guy and Nora. But and then we saw an interesting version here with her family that's kind of like Nora, where you know, Grace's family's all together, and then but only the dad goes and the other kids don't go. So that's an interesting variation on that whole departed
Yeah,
thing.
and I guess it's like she still loses her whole family, just, you know,
yeah.
for a different reason, like not just because of the departure.
and she's assuming he departed still. Like I'm still not quite convinced she has any proof.
Yeah.
So unless the kids, but yeah, the kids didn't even know anything. So yeah, I mean the dad could have just left or something, or maybe he walk about it himself.
Right.
God, that actually is interesting. That's actually a weird combination, right? They basically talked about walk because they have the kind of homage you pointed out, right, with the guy burning himself.
Yeah.
But they also the idea of the kids being on their own in the outback.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right.
Is totally walkabout.
Yeah. Definitely.
Man, if there was like time travel on this show, I'd be like the car guy's their dad. Like, something weird like that.
Right.
Like, that's why, he left the kids out there and killed himself.
Yeah. I guess that would make sense. If the walkabout answers work, then that would be the logical explanation. Like I assume it's just supposed to be taken as true, but I do agree that like it's I mean the story makes clear that it's just a huge assumption.
Yeah, exactly. There's a whole another, thought you were sent by God, Benjamin Linus,
Right.
sending us back surgeon, spinal surgeon.
This is how I know that God exists.
But it's weird because I thought God couldn't see the island. So how did he know he had cancer?
That's what I said last season. I'm not talking about that shit anymore.
That's an LS.
Yeah.
That's a last
I moved on from that.
I have new lies.
I don't know. I mean, it's weird. I mean, I think part of that's retcons and part of it is he was just being manipulative when he was captured.
Are we the only Leftovers podcast that periodically becomes a Lost podcast? And then goes back to being
probably.
Okay, what else about this bit here? She told it was just a story. But
sorry,
still...
but that reminded me of something. Sorry, something about the Leftovers.
Oh, good.
Believe it or not,
we're in the market for that.
Like, I mean, once you get to your season 2 rewatch, like, I'm interested to see where your perspective is when you actually get here. But at the end of the season, there's this whole plot line of, Tommy, or Tom as he's known sometimes. He's doing the Wayne thing, but then he. Meg shows up and to one of his meetings, and like comes up to him and like whispers in his ear like, I can do this for real. And and then
Meg.
And then there's another line later about like I had sex with you because I wanted to get you pregnant. And then
oh man.
And then at the end, when the Guilty Remnant are doing their whole plan for Jardin and stuff like that, and he thinks there's like explosives on the little trailer, he doesn't really know the truth. He's like, hey, my family's in there, like, but like, what does he say? No, someone else says that. Sorry. He confronts her with like, but there is no family. And she's like, family's the only thing that matters. And it's this weird, it's this weird string of like, it reminds me of those Ben scenes where she's just like saying stuff that, it seems like it's just deliberately designed to be provocative, but she doesn't necessarily mean it or mean anything by it in particular.
I think that's exactly, I think she's just fucking with people. She's just like, I am just going to make other people miserable.
Yeah. And that's all it is. But yeah, it's weird because like, it's like the kind of thing she says makes me think like there's some bigger meaning. you know. But in the end, I mean, especially when you cut to this season and you see, you know, how far the plan went afterwards, and you know what she really had to say about like what we should do next and stuff like that. It seems like she, you know, didn't really have some like grand plan. I mean, beyond, you know, breaking the bridge and letting everyone in.
Yeah.
You know, like that was it. The end.
Yeah. Yeah. God, that whole Meg saga is crazy. Because I'm in season 1 doing the rewatch, and completely different Meg. Completely different Meg.
She's very different in season 2.
But it's interesting how sadism is like a pit stop through grief. Like, it seems like this show is saying, like, when you're grieving, at some point you lash out at other people, and you are kind of just to a point where you're just being unreasonable, and you know, you're just making someone else miserable because you can't stand it. You know, and I'm at the point where Jill just decided to go to the guilty remnant because she's just found Nora's gun, and she thinks that people will never be able to be okay again, and therefore the answer to that is to follow me now, strip yourself of everything that I guess displays your vitality.
Attachments.
Attachments and emotions and health. And fashion sense. Decorum. And then get rid of that stuff, and then you will somehow be able to cope or find purpose. That's what it is. That's what she says. Like, right? It's about the purpose, right? Is it? I think that's what Patty says. Like that. Therefore, you find your purpose, right? That's what everyone's looking for, is purpose. So the question is, okay, the sudden departure happened. What's the purpose of that? What's my purpose now that it happened? What do I do now? And so the people who join the Guilty Remnant think, okay, well, what I'll do now is be a living reminder of this crazy thing that happened. And that'll be my job. That'll be my purpose. And it's interesting as like a coping mechanism and a strategy. It's a horrible as a cult and an ideology, but as a coping mechanism to the sudden departure, I get it. And I'm interested about like the other chapters of the Guilty Remnant, because like there's a whole thing about like their leadership stuff, and there's no like hierarchy, and right? Isn't it true, or am I misremembering something?
No, I think there's some hierarchy, or at least like I get that impression in season 2.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah. I'm remembering some of that stuff now. Well, I guess I was thinking that there was no like, there's not like one Guilty Remnant group for the whole planet or the whole country, right? Or am I misremembering?
I don't think we really know that.
Okay, yeah. That's what I meant. Clear. Like, there's no like, they're not a part of like a bigger thing. Like, there's other people out there doing a version of that, you know.
It seems like they're maybe they're loosely connected, or some of them are connected, or there's some like larger organization, but I don't get the sense it's gotten to the level of, you know, the Catholic Church or something like that, where there's like really this centralized authority and, you know, orders getting handed down, or dogma getting handed down, or something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Did we answer the thing you were asking?
Oh yeah, well no, I was just curious. I was just curious to see what you thought of that stuff when you get to it again, because I'd forgotten about, like, you know, like, freak you out, Meg. It just it reminds me of that Ben stuff. You know, it just seems like she's manipulating
Yeah, and like when she's like, "I just want to get you pregnant." I mean, that's kind of like the runway is for the aliens or whatever. It's kind of like,
right.
Here's a answer that's explicitly designed to tell you there's no meaning here.
Right.
Know.
Right.
Oh, Meg. Oh, Meg.
Oh, Meg.
I'm trying to think what else in this last part here. You just got the wrong Kevin.
Well, that's what I was gonna bring up, because that's something that's got to be addressed. Given this episode, what does he mean by that?
Well, it's funny because he should mean Kevin Jr.
Yep.
Because that's what that page was about.
Yep.
And that's who she's describing from the page, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the question is, would he tell her, "Hey, my son is that guy, but hey, I'm also special too"?
So yeah, so here's the thing. Like here were my thoughts when this happened. And I got to bring up Lost again. So in season 6 they have this whole candidate subplot, and part of that is like the names are written on the cave wall and on the lighthouse wheel and stuff like that, but it's just the last names.
Yeah.
So I remember people in season 6, like on podcasts and stuff, and I'm sorry, like, to take the tone I'm gonna take, but this is just, this is just how it feels to me. Whatever. It's fine if you thought this, but anyway, like, I would hear people say, like, it says Gerard. Does it mean Saeed or does it mean his brother? And it's like,
yeah.
It's like, it fucking means the character on the show. Like, are you serious?
Yeah.
Like, Kwan. Oh, maybe it's Ji Yeon. It's not fucking Ji Yeon. You're out of your mind.
You're like baby leader of the island? Come on.
There was a lot of that where it was just like, oh, maybe it actually means this other character who's not a character on the show really, or just appeared in a couple flashbacks. And it's just like, just by normal TV logic, like, that's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
And so, like, by that way of thinking, it seems obvious that he should mean Kevin Jr. The page is about Kevin Jr. I know it.
Yeah.
And if that's who you're looking for, I know he's my son.
Yeah.
There you go. But on the other hand, in this episode, you have that whole scene where he originally gets the book and he throws it away saying, like, it should be about me. This is my story. Like, fuck him. No offense, but, like, it's not about him. He's not the important one here. It's me. And so since you have that scene, it really opens up the possibility that he's going to try to say it's him. And he was police chief too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why it's the last line. It's because all the other setup lets you have this whole quandary. Because if he could only have meant Kevin Jr., it's not a great last line. I mean, it's not the best last line, right? Like, fine. But it wouldn't have the impact of, like, well, wait, what? Just that little bit of ambiguity, like, wait, which one does he mean?
Yeah.
But I'm curious, why does Kevin Sr.? I mean, what miraculous things have happened to him, or has he done? Like, there was a lot with Kevin Jr. So I'm confused. Like, if he's like, this book should be about me, and you're what? Like, from all I can tell, he heard some voices that he was ignoring for his time, and then they told him to go to Australia, and he did, and he hasn't heard from them since, I think.
No, but then a chicken told him that.
But then a chicken walked in. Don't forget the chicken of destiny, because when he comes a clucking, your luck is going to turn over a new feather, and things are going to be cracking your way.
Oh, God.
because you won't foul up if you don't beak come. And with that, I'm done, folks.
Wow.
I can't top beak come.
Beak come. No, so then he's gonna save the world from the great flood apocalypse by learning all these songs. I mean, I think he considers that important enough to warrant the book. But I agree that like he hasn't done anything miraculous. I guess he's saying he will do something miraculous eventually. But yeah, so far, I mean...
Well, that's not quite how scriptures work, buddy.
Huh?
It's
Hey,
it's not a list of things. It's not a list of things you're gonna do.
This is 2017. Like, we need to rethink. This is like Religion 2.0.
Oh no!
We need to,
not Religion 2.0.
We need to allow for.
They spell it without the vowels.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's all lowercase without the vowels.
We have to like admit the possibility of future miracles. Don't insist on miracles now.
RELYGN.
Believe that the miracles are coming.
It's an app on your phone now. Religion 2.0. Download it today. Religion 2.0 now is free Wi-Fi. Yeah, so sorry, what are you saying?
I know I'm on a path. I know that the miracles are on their way. You should follow me now. It's like almost like an investment opportunity. Believe me. This is going somewhere.
Call now and you get a free ride to heaven in first class. The first 50 people to sign up for this amazing opportunity. Hey. How often are you warned of the impending apocalypse? You can get in now on the ground floor before there's no ground to get in on. I feel like it's just like a bad Bill Maher sketch.
It does kind of seem that way. It's true.
Oh man, would he take the one out of every 18 episodes when he does a sketch on the side? Oh man, yeah, it's weird. So anyway, I think that's an interesting distinction. Is that
yeah.
Kevin actually it's reasonable from what Kevin has done that you would inquire as to his specialness.
Right.
Because he's trending in all these improbable categories. Namely resurrection.
Right.
And it's interesting, though, the correlation to Jesus, with this whole resurrection idea. Jesus only resurrected once, though. I was not that it's a competition, but Religion 2.0, you get 2 resurrections.
Hey, that's what a deal! You can't pass this up.
You can't pass what? Get one now, take one home later. I mean, share one with your friends. Yeah, I think that's kind of interesting. But what's missing is the other miracles. Now they kind of added this thing about he released people from their pain in the afterlife, a sort of double whammy for the same miracle. I don't know.
Right.
But he's not turning water into wine. He's not curing the sick. He's not
yet.
Matt has a cold. Matt has a cold, and then Kevin gives him some airborne, and then Matt feels better.
If he wasn't going to Australia, I feel like that would happen. That sounds like a plot line they would do.
And then he feels better, and then he's like, "Oh, he just cured the sick.
You saved me with your magic elixir."
What is this Ari Borne? It's ambrosia from the
It
gods.
must be a secret potion that only the chosen one could possibly
formulated by teachers. That's true, folks. Teachers are smart. That sounded sarcastic.
You did.
They are. That's why they teach. That sounded sarcastic. Sorry. I can't seem to compliment teachers without seeming sarcastic.
It's fine. They're used to it.
They're used to it. Okay, so what are we talking about?
Well, so I mean, do you have what are your what if you were to place odds, like what do you think he means here? Like, do you think he's gonna go all in with "it's me, I'm gonna do your miracles for you," or do you think it's gonna be no, it's Kevin Jr. on the thing, you know, and he'll connect with him somehow, and she will too, and you know what I mean, like. Which way?
Because
I think he's going to connect with Junior at some point either way, but...
Yeah, I was going to say, because I know Kevin's going to show up. I think he's going to say that the book was about, or the page was about Kevin, but the real story is about him. I think he's going to make it about him. I think he might
could it be a both and?
I think it's a both and. I think he's going to connect the two. He's going to say, "You're not crazy. This was about my son." But you won't believe my story, which is you know what he would tell. You know, the in walks the chicken of destiny. Hark! I hear a cluck. I hear a cluck upon me. Who shall it be? Sorry, the chicken of destiny is obviously British. I mean, you know, he's got a monocle. Anyway, he's gonna tell her the chicken story. She won't be. I can't even say it. Sorry, I can't even say it. It's too bad. I can't get through it.
Wait, what are you trying to say?
I was trying to say. I can't say it. It's the worst pun I've ever said. Wow, it's a bad.
Oh my god, I gotta hear it.
This is pretty bad. I'm trying to say. She won't. She won't believe it.
Wow.
Damn, that's bad. She won't believe it.
Believe it. Wow. That is quite a pun. Very, very brave pun.
Right? Say. Yeah, that pun. You have to have courage for that, guys.
You do.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a both and. I don't think he's going to be able to get away with
it's just me.
It's just him.
I agree. Okay, that sounds good. I didn't even think about the both and, which is stupid because I need to remember on Lindelof shows both and or option C or whatever is always on the table. Just because you're presented with two options doesn't mean it has to be just one of the two.
Yeah.
It can go other ways. And yeah, I think, because like he's going to get involved in the story. He's going to Australia and yeah, it just makes sense for him to say, you know, here's what the page was about. But, you know, so then he gets it both ways.
I do want to talk about her leap that this is a page of scripture and that it's real enough to kill someone over. I mean, why couldn't Kevin have just been a novelist with, like, you know, his manuscript on him?
That was a huge leap. She finds this guy clutching this page and then like assumes it's a message, like it's a divine it's insane. I mean, it is written like scripture, presumably. You know, I mean, we haven't really read it, but you know, still
that's what she says. Yeah, she says that.
It's you know, I mean, you would think if she, you know, I mean, she's really a believer, and of course, I mean, we could say this for Matt too.
But sorry, guys.
You know, you think she would be slower to. You know, the thing about Matt though is he's been there. You know, he's been there for some of the stuff, and he had his own miracle happen.
Yeah.
You know, so I
Yeah.
guess like I understand a little more his like ability to go beyond Christian theology or Christian dogma or what have you. But this character, I mean, she hasn't seen anything. I mean, there was just this
Mm-hmm.
guy there. It's not like
I
anything magical happened.
I think her thing is she is desperate with her grief and her guilt. She's a guilty remnant,
Yeah,
and uh, and I
I'm
think
surprised she didn't join the guilty remnant.
it's like the guilty remnant were the people all along, or it's like the Walking Dead thing. The Walking Dead are the humans.
Oh God, of course, of
Of course
course.
they are.
All of you were the guilty remnant.
Exactly. You out there in TV land. Um, but anyway, so I think that's the point. Is she's desperate for anything.
Yeah, yeah.
But what I was gonna say was if she took out this piece of paper from this dying guy, which is just a snake bite, it's not anything too crazy, right? And
Right.
yeah, he's on the site, but it's kind of like the only thing there in that area, right? Looks a little remote.
Right. It stands
Um,
out.
yeah, and but so if she had taken the piece of paper off of him and it was like and it read like scripture and it was like thus spake Xenu, like and it was Scientology or something. You know what I mean? Like if it was, why does the leap to believe a contemporary religion or piece of scripture or article of faith or something, like she made a huge leap very quickly.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, it reminds me of the Bibles. It's she makes leaps.
Yes, yeah, she does make leaps.
It seems like that's part of her character. I mean, it is huge. I mean, it's so huge that she murdered a guy because of it. Now she does say like she regrets it now. So she's at
Yeah.
least not that crazy. But
Yeah, she's like just like desperate. That
yeah,
and but the thing was like another assumption she made was that Kevin would test her,
right.
and like not acknowledge that he's this miraculous guy because like
Yeah,
because which presupposes that like he knows people are looking for him or he has a reason to hide his identity or
right.
he fears being you know what I mean, like it like if there it's weird, it's a weird leap to make,
Yeah, it is.
she's making all kinds of strange leaps, and then that like the way to that was somehow like that the it's such a weird, I mean, can you imagine any other encounter where like you think you're meeting the Buddha and to to prove to the Buddha that you believe he's Buddha, you have to kill him.
Right. Well, I mean
Uh,
that was the thing I didn't understand about the scene in the last episode. Like, because we didn't really know the context, and I was just like, if they believe in Kevin, why are they killing him? You know what I
that's the thing.
mean?
I thought they were trying to get proof that it was him, but she thought she knew it was him. So she
Yeah.
didn't need proof it was him. She was trying to prove it to Kevin that she knew it was him.
Right.
Like she's trying to prove her faith, which is
Yeah.
not an explanation I was thinking of when we first
Me
saw that
either.
scene.
No. Not remotely. Yeah, it was like they were just searching out Kevin's,
Mhm.
but it wasn't even that. It was like she saw Kevin, police chief.
They knew the one Kevin. Yeah, it
She
wasn't
knew he
like
was nearby, so it was like,
yeah.
oh, well, we'll just go to him. That's the only one,
Mhm.
Like I thought it might have been like they've been,
And
tracking down Kevin's.
and yeah, I thought they're like the outback is littered with drowned Kevins. This
Yeah,
is the
yeah,
third one they've.
exactly.
But here's what's weird. I'm about to forget it. Just vanished from my head. I was gonna say something about another assumption she was making. With Kevin. Oh, that's right. That's what I was gonna say. So if she thinks it's the local town Kevin sheriff guy, why doesn't she know of these miracles that's happened to him? Like, if this is
Right.
a person that she knows, even just, sort of
Yeah.
tangentially, like, why isn't she more surprised at that Kevin, that asshole, you know what I mean? Or whatever.
Right.
Like it's weird to, it'd be different if it was, Kevin she didn't know at all. And she's like, we had to go track down a police chief named Kevin and he was, 3 towns over or something.
Right.
But it's like she knew exactly who he was, but yet didn't know had not heard. It seems like if somebody's writing a book about what this guy did, then at least there'd be word of mouth about what happened to him, or something.
Right. That's a good point. I didn't even think about that.
Yeah, she made a lot of leaps very quickly. I mean, I guess it's just her desperation to make this work.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's also this thing that's interesting when you get into like religious stories and ideas and people with faith and stuff like that is this idea of like what God wants and stuff like that, because she wants to talk to her kids again, which is completely understandable, but like if God took them away, then isn't that your sign that you're not supposed to talk to them again until she dies or something and they all go to heaven?
Right.
I always find that those kind of incongruencies, kind of interesting, which they highlight, in the show in terms of people's beliefs and stuff like that and their
Right.
assumptions and stuff. But I find that interesting that she's going through all this thing enough to kill a guy. I don't think God wanted that.
Right.
You know. So it's interesting, like what's a sign and what's not a sign, and what's your path and what's not your path. I mean, that's just for anybody. But yeah, I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else?
I I think that's it. I think that's yeah. Pretty sure I hit all the things.
Yeah. Yeah. Let me see if I have any other notes. Oh, I did want to clarify something I mentioned on the last podcast. I was trying to reiterate what Lindelof was saying on a podcast about the sudden departure being the only supernatural event on the show.
Yeah.
We got a comment on the site that was saying that Damon has mentioned that a couple ways, and that he's explained it better in other times, and that he's not necessarily precluding other supernatural events from happening on the show.
Oh, okay.
I thought that's important to know, because obviously it's the whole game of the show.
Yeah, it makes more sense if you would take that point of view. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have to go see if I can find the interviews where he talks about it and in the context that he actually means, better context.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of interviews these days.
He's doing a ton of interviews.
They're all over the place.
Like the show's done now. It's all completed and shot, edited. So like, he's free to just do all kinds of stuff.
And it's clearly he talked about it in one of those interviews. It's clearly going better than the end of Lost did. Because like when Lost ended, he didn't do any interview. They both like just disappeared.
Yeah.
For some time.
With like Switzerland or something.
Yeah. Went on vacation and just like went off the grid. Like we're not doing interviews about Lost or whatever. I mean, it was a long time before they really even talked about it.
Yeah, it was like a year at least.
Publicly.
So like
Yeah. I think they did a thing at the Comic-Con the next year.
Yeah.
And that was the first time they had talked about it since then. So yeah, it really isn't like that this time. It's clear that he doesn't I mean, I think the level of pressure is different. I mean, it's a shorter show, and I get the sense, it doesn't have the same backlash, because like if you're coming into the leftovers, you've probably seen Lost, or at least you've heard about it. You know the thing about it And so you kind of should know. I mean, it's Lost said it's your fault too, but at this point, like, it really is your fault if you get into the show and you're disappointed by certain things, because like that's just what he does. He likes writing that way. It's 100% clear.
Yeah, and he's done a much better job of stating that up front, making it clear, like,
yeah,
hey, if you want answers, don't come to this show. This is not the show for you. If you want things explained and all that stuff, and which is super helpful, because, and again, with Lost, they didn't even know what they were doing when they started it, so
yeah,
they wasn't gonna be able, like, they could really communicate like what's possible, what's not, and they didn't want to, like, take anything off the table if they didn't have to, with ideas. Prison spaceship from another dimension, if
right,
reference.
right, yeah, and it was all about the teas and stuff, and it did seem like they were at least like trying to. I don't know. It's weird because I do feel like Leftovers like does try to get you to want answers, but I just feel this greater awareness and I guess acceptance of the fact that like I won't get all the answers I want.
Yeah, it's like I want the answers, but that's not the point.
Yeah.
And the point is to see how these characters are reacting, and they're wanting for answers and not getting them.
Right.
Which is an enjoyable experience when you know what, in that context, when it's set up for you like that.
Right.
And I think that was part of my frustration with season 1. It was like, what's the point of this? Like,
right.
Why am I watching this? Who cares? Like, he's kind of maybe going crazy or not. Is that interesting?
Yeah.
And if season 2 being really good makes season 1 better because you like the characters more.
Definitely. Yeah.
I like Patty way more this time rewatching season 1.
Yeah.
And then having the time crunch, or truncated time of not waiting week to week and all that, so things weren't as obnoxious, when I could just get to the next episode.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, pretty good episode. This is gonna be really interesting. I'm assuming next episode, Kevin and Nora will be in Australia.
Yeah, that seems pretty logical.
I guess the first question there is, how do they find Kevin Sr.? How do they all meet up?
Right.
There's a season trailer that they premiered a while ago for this season that I was gonna watch, but I just couldn't because I know it has spoilers in it.
Yeah.
And I find that stuff to be so weird, because it's like, it's part of the show. They want you to see this stuff. They put it out there, but is it a better experience not knowing anything? Or is it better knowing a little bit, like, oh, I remember in that trailer they had this scene with this thing, so I know that's going to happen. Because if you want to, like, try to guess what's going to happen on the show, that's really helpful.
Yeah.
So it's like you kind of trade, pros and cons between the two.
Yeah, I guess I generally prefer not to watch those things. I find like I always draw wrong conclusions, or they're misleading in some way when I just see like shots from from future episodes, like, out of context.
Yeah.
It's just I always form wrong ideas, which I guess is better than just guessing what the whole show's gonna be, but but it just gets me thinking in weird directions, and I guess I kind of enjoy just, not really knowing what to expect at all. Like, this episode completely I did not expect this episode at all.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess I imagined we would get more of Kevin Sr.'s story, but I really never expected a whole episode of him. Which I guess, if I understand that, this show is more like, sort of single point of view oriented, then it's logical that that's the way it's going. But I guess it didn't. I mean, I don't know. It didn't. Uh, it didn't feel like it was necessarily like that. I mean, there's definitely some episodes in season 2 that are clearly like that, but it does seem like there are other episodes that do have, um, more of a like omniscient perspective of just like going between various characters, or maybe one is even the main one, but it's still like pays attention to other ones. I mean, in this case, like, no, not at all. And the fact that it's the final season, they have 8 episodes, and they spent one of them on this. Like, I mean, I'm starting to go in that mode, that I felt with the trampoline, which this isn't like the trampoline. I mean, this addresses plot elements and also like, some.
You mean when Nora and Erica were on the trampoline?
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I just got that feeling of. I mean, I got that feeling when the X-Files came back, and like there's this extended like drug trip sequence that Mulder goes on, and like it goes on forever. I mean, it probably isn't as long as it felt, but I mean, it felt like it went on for 10 minutes or something.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just like, you got 5 episodes. Why are you wasting your time on this?
Yeah.
It just seemed like such a squandering of what they the limited time they had, and the trampoline scene, like I got a little flash of that. Of course, it wasn't as long, so it didn't bother me as much. But and this episode isn't like that in the sense that it fills in certain plot details and also like character. I mean, his Kevin Senior's like journey in this episode is like fairly significant. So it's not like just a fantasy sequence where at the end like nothing really happens and you can.
Well, I think that's the difference. Yeah, is that this shows how important it is to set up what's happening for the end game of the show, right? To take a whole episode to set up Kevin Senior's perspective means that's how important it is to connect what's going to happen.
Yeah.
But I actually heard another. I think the big reason why we have that trampoline scene. It's kind of a spoiler. I don't know if you want me to tell you. It's a spoiler in terms of like casting. If that makes any sense.
Okay. I guess that's okay. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not like it doesn't. It more says what won't happen. It doesn't tell you what will happen.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to tell you?
Sure.
Okay, so if you don't want to hear it, audience, don't listen to this next 5 seconds. So apparently Regina King's off the show. So that was her last scene.
Oh,
so
okay.
I think that's why I had a little bit more attention to it.
And
a little bit more like lingering, kind of a farewell scene.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I got that vibe anyway. Without knowing it. I mean, the way they portrayed her in that scene, like, gave me the impression that she was done.
Yeah, she had no problems.
Exactly.
There wasn't anything. She like got her little condo and she's doing well.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I'm not surprised that it's that, but you're right. That makes more sense. I guess I didn't think of it as like a farewell scene.
Yeah.
So, because they don't necessarily play it that way, because there's this idea that Erica's still out there somewhere. Theoretically, the story could go back to her. It's just not going to.
Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I just can't believe that. I mean, that's why I compare it to Across the Sea. That it's like spending a whole episode with a character who's, very much not a main character of the series. This late in the game is kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And it's also not what I would call mythological. I mean, it does fill in some, explanations of things we've seen before, but it doesn't exactly You know what I mean? It doesn't progress the so-called supernatural aspects of the plot, at all, really.
What does it?
Or give us any new information about it. This episode.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, the big thing is if there's a flood coming, that's pretty huge.
Right. But I guess, like, I don't know. Maybe I'm too dismissive of that. I just kind of immediately think that that's wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong.
I mean, the fact that he kills the guy with the last song, it's like, I feel like he's just going to move on. I feel like, coming in the path of grace and, like, like, now he's come to believe that this is what the chicken meant.
This is what the chicken meant. What did the chicken mean?
My quest to understand what the chicken meant. Yeah, and like, maybe he'll start to think, oh, it wasn't about the rain, it was about Kevin Jr.
That makes sense.
He's in the thing. Like, so he'll just shift his focus. Like, I guess I don't know. I'm not convinced that even though there's an arc outside.
I can see him thinking that when Kevin shows up and he goes, oh, this is what the chicken meant. Which I hope becomes a common phrase going forward. In moments of people having, like, epiphanies, like, they just turn and they go, this is what the chicken meant. And it's just a metaphor. Like, people just use it, and people be like, wait, what does that phrase even mean? We don't even know what that means. It's just a thing we say.
Right.
What did he mean?
There's a lot of stuff like that.
And then you have to Google it, and then you find out about the chicken of destiny.
There's the chicken of destiny.
Yeah. Chicken of destiny. And I love that detail. God damn, there's just this that's what I love, when writing is really specific, and there's this thing that is so classic where the what did he say? The chicken could show you what you were looking for. It couldn't tell you what to look for, right? Was that the distinction?
Oh, yeah.
It couldn't. Is that what they said? Like, it couldn't.
Something like that.
You have to already know what you want to find. Mm-hmm. It doesn't tell you, like, what's next or where to look for anything. And I thought that was such a Lindelof, like, very specific distinction. Like, he shows up to this magical thing, but it's broken. He doesn't quite have the thing he needs to get what he wants out of it.
Right.
Just this little twist of the knife. It's like, oh man. It's like, if you already knew what you wanted, he'd cluck it out for you. Yeah,
right. I have to get the, like, I don't know. I
also like the limitation of that as a chicken. Of realizing, hey man, if you don't know what you want, I can't help you. Like, I'm not all powerful, know?
Right.
I have this one. It's like Wayne's hugs, or like Kevin, can't die, or it's like this. You kind of have this narrow lane of specialness,
Right. Just because I can hug your pain away doesn't mean I can, see through walls
or know the future or whatever.
Right.
Like, yeah. And that's, and that lends, that's a kind of it's a Holland, really, if you want to get into it. But it's kind of like a macrocosm of the whole show, right? Like, this one big crazy thing happened, which lends itself to other things happening, it's kind of like that. Or just because the departure happened doesn't mean these other things are true.
Right. Actually, that's a good question. Was the chicken clairvoyant before the departure?
Oh man. The worst part is, I completely agree with you. It's a great question. It's a great question. Or did
it just acquire its powers?
It's like, it begs the question so hard. That's a really good point, because other people, that's the whole point, right? Other people who have these powers got it after the sudden departures. So first of all, I guess the chicken's pretty old. I don't know how long chickens live, but it's a couple of years at least.
Yeah.
yeah, you know, that's weird. I hate that that's a question to ask. When
Yeah,
did the
it's
chicken get its
ridiculous.
powers? And well, you know, another question being begged is, do other animals have powers? Is that why the dogs are crazy? You know, does it
Right,
tie into that?
right.
Um, uh, Yikes. Well, and wasn't there a line in this episode about someone getting departed and the animals also getting departed?
Yes, there was.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. Who
That
said that? And
was weird.
said that?
Now I don't remember when that happened. But that definitely happened.
Here
Let's
we
see.
go. Small town, October 14th. Oh, he's talking about the chicken. Oh yeah, yeah.
Is that where the chicken's from?
Yeah. I think he's talking about the chicken. You know what I saw on TV, Chris? A chicken on October 14th. So this is the town. This is where the chicken
Yeah.
is. A town in the outback lost its entire population. Only about 14 people, but all of them vanished, even the animals. Every little thing in that town gone except for one thing, an egg. So 2 days later, the egg hatches. They name him Tony. I love that line.
That's what it is.
Again, like the comedy of it, of like, of the, why would you name a chicken Tony? It's just,
That's a
you
good
know, and
question.
it's so interesting, and it's not like a particularly like Australian name or something, or
Right.
no, it's just we named him Tony. It's just so hilarious. At first, no one took him seriously. I love that line, but then the rumors started. Rumors that the chicken could help people find whatever they were looking for. Again, this story is just again I'm gonna say macrocosm another time, microcosm of what's going on with Grace, of what's going on with all these people. You know, I think that line, but then the rumor started, is really important.
Oh yeah,
Um, you
definitely.
because it's like,
That
oh,
stands
well, then
out.
when someone wrote a book about Kevin, he seemed pretty special. You know, when people started saying he was special, well, now I'll take him seriously based on what other people are saying. You know,
Right.
it's like the townspeople in the opener of the season. You know, and the
Yeah.
flashback. You know, everyone took the Midnight Rapture seriously when everyone was doing it and talking about it, but um, yeah. So anyway, that's the town where the animals got taken to. But 14 people. How many animals were there? I don't know. And that's when the rumor started. So he goes to see Tony. Tony doesn't work that way. I love it. I love that there's a guy who. That's right. That's right. There's the chicken guy who basically is saying my chicken. I have a magic chicken. Um, God, wouldn't it be great if this was Wayne? Wouldn't it be great if that was Wayne? And this is like his scam before or something, or before he found the hug thing, he had a magic
Mm-hmm.
chicken. Um. Anyway, I was kind of rereading this scene here. Uh. Oh, Tony started packing and he packed this thing. Yeah, wow. Um. All right, what else were we talking about? Oh, God's tongue. Oh man.
I uh what are we talking about?
I like that he always wanted to see the Sydney Opera House.
Oh yeah, yeah. I didn't know that was a thing.
That Sydney had an opera house.
Well, no, I mean not specifically. I guess I could imagine, but I hadn't heard of
Oh,
it.
that's like the thing.
Is it? Is it really?
Like whenever you see a picture of Sydney, that big white building that's shaped like clams or something,
Oh
like
man, I have
that's
no
the
idea what you're talking about. It's sounding
if
crazy.
if you look, yeah, that made it sound weird. Look up Sydney Opera House and you'll immediately that's the shot in
Okay.
everything of Sydney.
All right. Let's see. Uh-huh. All right. Images, maybe? Oh. Have I seen this?
Oh, God, you've seen it. If you've seen Lost.
Did they show it in Lost?
Yeah.
Oh, man. You're going to have to... I'm going to have to, like, watch again, because I
Does it
don't...
look familiar?
Not really. I
Dude, that's
mean...
like, in movies when they want to show you a shot of where you are, and if you're in London, they show you Big Ben or the
Yeah.
Parliament. It's like that. It's like, that's the Sydney
If you're
thing.
in Paris, it's the Eiffel Tower.
Sydney has nothing else. I mean, that's literally
That's the thing.
the whole city is the Opera House.
Okay.
Everyone lives in the Opera House.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm crazy. I don't really recognize it.
Maybe, yeah, you got to see the right shot of it or something.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm looking at a lot of different pictures, but yeah. Well, it's definitely an interesting building. I could see wanting to visit there.
Yeah.
It's got a kind of crazy design. It's like what did you call it? A clam shell?
So they're like clams.
Bunch of clams?
Yeah. It's a bunch of clams.
Bunch of clams.
Season 3, episode 14. Do you know what episode that is? I'm just testing you, Randy.
Oh God.
Without looking.
Let me think. Season 3, episode 14.
14. Yeah.
Oh shit. It's the one. Fuck. It's the one. Shit. It's the one after The Man from Tallahassee. What was the one after The Man from Tallahassee? Oh man. Wait. Oh God. Hold on. Is it Expose?
It's Expose.
Okay.
Nice. Good job.
Woo. That was tough. I got to Left Behind, but I was like, no, that's 15. Mm-hmm. What was between those two? And it's like, what else could it be? There's no other episode that it could be.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing happened between those episodes. That's why it's Expose.
Exactly.
I actually forgot about Nikki and Paulo. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, well, they wanted us to. Yeah, there's a shot here.
They show it in Expose.
Yeah, you wouldn't really know it, but yeah, I'm trying to see. I was just kind of searching, but anyway, that's the Sydney Opera House. It's a thing.
Yeah. It's clearly a thing, and I get why when I look at it. I don't know. Maybe I just wasn't paying attention. Maybe I knew it and forgot. I don't know what happened, but I was like, the Opera House? Okay, whatever. I mean, I know opera houses are a thing to see, but I didn't necessarily know that Sydney had a special one.
I think it's Opera's House.
Opera's House.
Yeah, I think that's
Oprah's
the correct.
House.
Oprah's House?
Yes.
Cool. What else? I don't think we mentioned it last episode, the obvious thing, as we were joking and making fun of the 4 middle-aged women on horses. But this whole 4 horsewomen of the apocalypse thing.
Oh, didn't we say that?
I don't know if we said that. I don't remember if we said that.
All right.
Explicitly. I think it's implicit, but anyway, I just thought I'd make that, in terms of this whole portent of the end of the world.
Right, they're on the horses, and yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's you know what else I'm gonna say? Actually, here's where I'm going now. You know what?
Where are you going?
You know what? Those other 3 women, they got some explaining to do, because we know Grace's story, and I'm not saying that excuses it, but it is extreme. I do understand.
Yep.
What the fuck were they doing helping out murdering this guy? What does she tell them? That they're like, okay, we'll go along with that. That sounds reasonable.
Well, I think the obvious answer is she said he can let me talk to my kids, and they probably have loved ones to talk to too.
I guess so. And one of them was kind of hesitating. So there was at least that, but Uh, but I guess, realizing that, they didn't find the guy, they didn't find the piece of paper.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't there for any of that. And so, they just, like, she just shows up or calls or whatever. And it's like, all right, I found this thing. I gotta we gotta go get Kevin, the police chief, so we can talk to people in the afterlife. All right,
Mm-hmm.
mount up. Let's do it.
I think it's probably one of those scenes where like she tells them she needs their help with something and it's super important, and she doesn't tell them what until like right when they kidnap them, and
Mm-hmm.
it's too late to do anything about it, and they, you know what I mean? It's one of those things where nobody has time to really think it through,
Right. Okay.
and like, it's probably one of those like she's like meet me, outside of the sheriff's station or whatever, or
Right, right.
or wherever they are. They didn't find him. They didn't get him there. He was out somewhere. But you know what I mean? It's I kind of see it going like that, where she didn't really give them the whole story necessarily, and she, there's a line or two about, he can help me see my kids again. What, and then they don't explain and go on to something else. And
Right, right.
so they're not completely bought into what's going on. They're kind of, a little bit like the audience, like trying to figure out what's happening still.
Right. Yeah, okay. That seems
Because
pretty,
that's the thing, that's the trap we fall
reasonable.
into, right? And that's the lesson I learned with this episode, with the whole, the end of the second episode, when Kevin comes out with the women, and I assume he knows them to some degree, and that's like completely wrong. So
Right.
I'm trying to learn that lesson with this, and so just because the women are helping Grace doesn't mean they're completely bought in on the level she's bought in.
Right. Right. That's a good point. There's a lot of followers in this show,
Mm-hmm.
and they have various levels of commitment. I mean, like, Tommy, like, basically joins the guilty remnant before abandoning them at the end of season 2, and I had completely forgotten about that.
Yeah, Tommy had a weird period where he just like fluctuated between anything he thought made sense.
Yeah.
I mean, when he went so far as to do Wayne's hugs, I thought he had really lost it.
Yeah.
Because he knew Wayne was a fraud.
Right.
It's like, why are you doing this? And I guess he's trying to help people, but yeah, it's a really weird. Yeah, Tommy's character is a weird. He was one of the weirdest characters on the show. I kind of feel like he doesn't really have a place. Like he's always in this weird tangential storylines when it is focusing on him.
Right. Right.
And he's just kind of never fit into the show. I felt like in like an organic way. Partially because he's just kind of on his own from the beginning.
Right.
In his own like storylines and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been weird for him. I wanted to mention, I think in the pictures in the Frozen photo album, I think we see the pool where they, in the past we see the pool where they were the lake or pond or whatever where they were dunking Kevin. I think we see like their kids on, and it's like a seesaw at the pool. I think that's what it is.
Oh, right.
So it's just like a thing they built to play in the water.
Not to drown people with.
So it wasn't like they constructed this thing. And that's the other thing too. Like I didn't assume that she was on her own property for some reason.
Me either. I thought they just went somewhere where they knew there was a seesaw they could drown them with.
Exactly. Or not only in that, but like where the nearest like body of water was.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that shows my bias as like an urban dweller. Because it's like, to me, like if I wanted to drown someone in water, I'd have to go, well, there's a beach close by. But you know what I mean? Like there's no like lakes and stuff or ponds accessible. But if you're, out in the country, in the outback, you might just have it on your own property.
Right.
And that's interesting too, is if the page that she found had detailed that Kevin got shot and didn't die, she could have like tried to just shoot the Kevin.
Right. Right. Yeah. She went with the wrong interpretation version.
Mm-hmm.
So that's gonna be weird if she ever finds out what actually happened.
Yeah. Well, cool, man. I think that's it for me.
Yeah. No, I think that's covers most things.
Yeah. So next episode, I guess. Yeah. Hopefully, we'll see them in Australia. I'm expecting it to be another kind of single point of view, so I'm curious who that might be. Um, or maybe it'll be a bit more even-handed if
Mm-hmm.
if they have multiple characters in Australia.
Right.
But yeah, I'm curious how they're gonna find each other. Maybe Kevin Senior just calls Kevin and says, "Hey, what are you doing?
Yeah.
This lady read your book and she's interested.
Yeah.
And again, though, her supposition that Kevin can help her talk to her kids, Kevin Senior seemed to kind of validate that. He didn't say, he didn't really kind of change her opinion about that. Like, well, no, he can't do that,
Right.
because that's not a thing he thinks Kevin can do.
Uh.
I don't think.
Yeah. Not necessarily. Not for any obvious reason.
Um, I'd also be interested to know if there's any mention of Kevin's adversary in the Bible. It seemed like, a Bible without a great adversary. What kind of Bible
Right.
is that?
Yeah. Yeah. I would think it would have to. But yeah, until someone says it's in there, I guess we won't know.
Mm-hmm. Man, that's tricky. I mean, does that count as worshiping another god? Writing a writing a book of Kevin?
Well, I don't know. Um, it's a technicality. You know.
Technical foul.
Um, yeah. I mean, not necessarily. I guess. I mean, if you're not saying Kevin is God,
Mm-hmm.
you're
Okay,
just
that's fair. That's fair. Yeah.
you're just saying he's some kind of prophet or something like that. I guess it's not necessarily, you know. I mean, I imagine a lot of churches wouldn't approve, but
Mm-hmm.
it's strictly speaking, you don't have to deny anything, in the Bible or whatever.
Yeah.
He's just the latest, in a long line that just happened
Mm-hmm.
to have ended a long ass time ago. But hey,
Hey,
it's back again.
that gum you like is coming back in style.
Exactly.
That prophet you like is returning. Any other predictions for the next episode or the season or anything?
I feel very powerless to know what the next episode would be. So, like, the clue for this episode was the way the last episode ended.
Mm-hmm.
It ended with the posse and Kevin Senior. So that was a clue. So I guess based on that, I'm gonna assume the next episode will focus on Kevin and Nora's trip to Australia.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like, and I don't know how far that's gonna get, and I don't know what they're gonna do. Are we gonna see death ray people? Are they gonna make contact with Kevin Senior in the next episode? Like, what some random other thing that we're not expecting,
Mm-hmm.
that we have no way of predicting? Like, could we ever have guessed? Oh, 'twas a clairvoyant chicken what sent him on this mission. Like, who would have come up with that? I mean, it's,
Yeah.
it's the kind of thing that once you know it, it's like, well, it was the chicken, so, fine. But
Yeah.
before you know it, you're not going to guess that.
I think the biggest missing piece with that was that he thinks the end of the world is coming and he can stop it. That wasn't known before.
Yeah.
That was his big motivating thing.
Right.
But yeah, it is the chicken of destiny. Is hard to imagine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do also feel powerless to think about what the next episode is. It seems so amorphous, yet it's going to be really obvious and predictable when we watch it.
Yep.
But yeah, I assume it'll be their trip. I assume they'll get to him by the middle of the episode at least.
Okay.
Um,
It's logical. It's just I don't want to discount the idea that they don't meet up until, I don't know, an episode or two later. And there's going to be another aspect of the story that, either it's about the death race or whatever.
Yeah, like exactly. Yeah, they could go off on that. Find the people who have the machine that could send you to the departed place. Or
that's what I'm calling the death race.
The death race. Or it could be like you said. They might run into that guy.
Right.
That died before.
Yeah.
I imagine like Kevin at a bar and he sees that guy. Like at a bar, and there's probably karaoke there too, and Kevin will be weirded out.
Oh God! Oh, I can totally see that. Absolutely.
Yeah. And Nora will be like, "I'm gonna go sing a song," and then they'll have a scene between Kevin and that guy while like Nora singing.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Wow. It writes itself.
I'm just saying. Yeah. I'm just like writing this episode on the fly. But only the predictable scenes, not anything interesting. Yeah, something else I was going to say about Kevin Sr. Yeah, see, I just don't see it playing out. So whenever they meet up, Kevin Sr. is going to say, hey, Kevin, this lady knows a little bit about the book and what happened to you, and she wants you to help her talk to her kids. Yeah. And he's going to say, it doesn't work like that.
Yep.
So where are they going to go from there? I mean, are they going to try? Is he going to like oblige her and be like, all right, drown me, and I'll go back to the hotel, and I'll see if your kids, if I happen to see them, now that I'm looking for them.
Wait for it for the first time.
Yeah, exactly.
I've never drowned before.
Haven't been drowned before. What did you say? Nothing. I mean, I'm so tired of drowning.
Maybe he'll try. I mean, the door's open, so like, in the hotel.
I don't think Nora would let him risk it.
Yeah, well, she probably won't want to, but maybe he'll. I don't know. Maybe he'll do it anyway. The hotel didn't contain anyone who departed, so the fact that her children actually died like the normal way opens up the possibility.
Yeah.
But I agree that like I don't know where that goes. I don't know. That doesn't seem like. It doesn't seem like an end point, It seems like something else has to come into play there.
Mm-hmm.
And once we see it, it's going to be like, of course it was that. But, yeah, for now, I just feel clueless.
Speaking of writing the show, I'm picturing a scene between Kevin and Kevin Sr. And Kevin's like, the dad tells him how he got there, and he tells him he took the God tongue. He's like, oh, God tongue. He goes, you told me that when I saw you on my TV. And then Kevin Sr. will be like, what? When you were at the hotel, you saw me on TV? And he's like, yeah. And I don't know what he's going to say, but I think Kevin Sr. is going to posit an answer for that, and that'll be the answer. He's going to, and it'll be some pedestrian. It'll be like, oh, you must have, remembered that other time I told you about how I did or like something that'll fill in why it makes sense that it or an answer that won't confirm that it actually happened,
right?
But I feel like it'll come from Kevin Sr. for some reason. I feel like he'll be the one to be like, oh, this is why that happened,
right? And it's not the craziest thing.
Yeah. That's my hunch.
That sounds pretty likely.
What else? It's tough to. I guess we could look at the next episode title real quick. We used to do that on the old LLD.
Oh, did we?
You were there. Remember we used to look at the episode titles and try to figure out like what might come next.
Okay.
Didn't we do that? Did I make that up?
I remember maybe doing that, but I don't remember doing that a lot.
Okay, looks like the title is Good Day Melbourne.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds like it's definitely about the Australia trip then.
Mm-hmm. So it's like a morning talk show.
It does, yeah. Maybe that's what it'll be about.
Speaking of shows in this world in Australia, did you notice? I saw some people talking about in the scene at the end of the second episode when we see Kevin in the police station or whatever, the Australian Kevin. Apparently, the TV in the background, the weather forecast was talking about plagues or something. Did you catch that? Have you heard about this?
No.
Am I making this up? Yeah, let me see if I can. Here it is. It's right after Kevin's like, I put a bag on my head. I just want to feel. Oh, Kevin. Baghead Kevin. Sorry, let me see. I don't know. In terms of the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse, this was supposed to go along with that.
I see.
Like, it's like forecasting, he goes and shoots the kangaroo. Hellfire moving up from the south. Off the Gold Coast, a high-pressure system of locusts, and perhaps blood boiling out. He's saying, this is the weatherman saying, I think he's saying this is going to happen on the anniversary? Sorry, I'm trying to find the right section. I wasn't paying attention apparently first time.
Yeah, I wasn't either.
Sorry. Hard to get the right spot. Keep watching him shoot kangaroo. Jeez. Okay. He says with October 15th fast approaching, we might see this stuff. So he's just being cheeky.
Yeah. Sounds like it.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that was an interesting detail to kind of foreshadow this apocalyptic women thing.
Right. Yeah. I guess it's a question if she believes something crazy is going to happen, on the 14th.
It's the 15th down there.
Yeah, thank you. You're right. You're right.
I love that detail. I love that.
It's a good one because if it was the same moment on the whole Earth, it could not have possibly been the same date on the entire Earth.
Yeah.
So, 15th, of course.
A day later, mate.
Yeah, like the boat, the reason for the boat, it's not necessarily tied into that, but like, is there anything there at all?
Okay. What's the most obvious reason for a boat? Obviously, for a boat, you're going to go on water.
Yeah.
So maybe they are planning a boat trip.
Yeah.
Hey, maybe a solo race.
Uh-oh.
In a big arc. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why you'd have a boat. Well, you'd build a boat, I should say. Dang. I thought it was going to be easy. It's not.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll see. Next episode, we'll see what the boat's going to be about. Yeah, there's a lot of explaining to do. There's a lot of people a lot of explaining.
Definitely.
Explain.
And only 5 left.
And only 5 left, ladies and gentlemen. Cool, man. Well, all right. I think that's it.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody. Until next time.
All right. See you later.